Wait for them to come online. Stand by. Live streaming. Downloads. Characters. Games. Bat signals out. The website is up. Brograph.tv is good. Facebook's up. I'm gonna do a quick Facebook share. Live now. People coming in on the interwebs. Okay.
Line into chat.
How many viewers do we have? Don't show me that on that button. Come on. Button. Who's
oh, hey, Scott. Scott's here. Hello, Scott. I've got the YouTube up.
The YouTube.
To monitor the chat.
What's the plan for the stream? Hey, bros. You're just gonna have to tune in and find out. Sharing as
until you get here.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Alright, so those are all up and running, and so our stream's good. I'm gonna go to the 3 shot. Go there. Whoa, I'm really bright over there. What's going on? Fix the color. Something ain't right. Yep. Here we go. That's better.
Happy Monday, Rick Bogus.
All right. I think we're good. All right, let's start rolling the audio on our recording devices.
Okay.
And everybody let me know when you're good.
Just start rolling, and then we'll do the clap, or?
Yeah, start rolling.
Okay. Rolling.
Check.
Check.
Oh, I wasn't rolling. Now I'm rolling.
Okay. All right.
I thought I was rolling this whole time.
We're going to do the clap when it's 1, 2, 3, clap.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
I've waited my whole life for this.
1, 2, 3. Okay, we got the peeps watching. Did I forget anything? Everything's live. I think we're good. So,
thanks, Rick. I'm excited to be home.
All right. I'll do the intro. Matt will introduce you. You'll say hi, and then I'll go through the spiel, and then we'll get into it.
Sounds good.
All right. Make sure my phone is muted. Yes, it is. All right, here we go.
Sorry, go ahead. Nothing. I'll talk about it on the show.
All right. What up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph Brocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt. And joining us today is our dear friend, Gurnge, otherwise known as Billy Chitkin.
Hello. Glad to be on, finally.
And Brograph is a supplement to our site, Brograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other MoGraph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the band. You can email us, Brograph@Brograph.com. Didn't get any emails this week. I'm a little disappointed. Everybody's up in the Slack. I get it. But would love to hear from anybody who has input on the show. People who aren't in the Slack, actually.
Yeah, if you're not in the
Slack. Which
Slack,
isn't a lot. Yeah. And if you're not in the Slack, why not? Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what you want to talk about.
I can't keep up with the Slack.
No, it's impossible. Unless you want to read 500 plus messages a day. I mean,
I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I get all these emails all day from work." And I'm like, "Yeah, try having a Slack."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm 1 or
Yeah.
200 of those messages, so I feel
Yes, you are.
partially responsible.
It's okay though. We don't mind that. Not at all. We just may or may not see everything in every channel. That's all.
Yeah,
So.
I think it's a testament to the community that you guys are starting to help grow up. I was talking to Chad from GSG at like the last half res, and he was like, "Yeah, we started the Slack, and in like a month, we didn't even have to be involved in it anymore because there was a community that just grew up
Right.
on its own."
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of us are the same ones in the GSG Slack and the motion
Right.
design Slack and this
Yeah.
Slack.
There are
Yeah.
only so many of us. But
Yes,
there's an infinite number of Slacks.
that's true.
So-
Right. Well, as far as Slack goes, it's really cool because it's kind of getting a mind of its own. I mean, look at the Bro Chain
Yeah.
project that's going on right now, which I really don't know. I wanted to participate in that so bad, but
We'll get there.
well, I
We
didn't
got
get
a big
chance.
project that we're finishing up this week. We got
Yeah.
like 1 week left on it.
and then we're off to the next big project, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
we wanted to participate so bad, maybe, but I can't guarantee it. So yeah, Billy, you're here, aka Gurnge.
Mhm. That's the
Gurnge
name.
in all the different places on the
You got
interwebs.
to add like 6 or 7 extra syllables on it.
Yeah, we need more E's on the first E.
Yeah,
It's mandated in my contract.
Right.
yeah. Matt and I this morning, before we got on the line with you, we were in a conference call, like you do, and I think I just have this image saved now, and so it's kind of our thing when we're on a conference call and we're talking to like a potential new client or something. We stay on Skype and keep our Skypes muted so we can kind of look at each other and give each other visual cues, and we can send each other texts and be like, oh no, tell them this about the price, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, right? So this morning we get on and we're in the call, and of course multiple people. It's a conference call, so I start screen sharing with Matt, and I bring up Photoshop, and I get a giant a giant brush that's red, and I open up conference call bingo in Photoshop, and I just start marking
It's
off
pretty funny.
the different things on screen sharing and showing Matt as we go. And it's funny because something will happen and it's like, yeah, we're celebrating our bingo while other people are going on about whatever they're going on about. It's just like, I didn't hear that. What'd you say? Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Yes. Bingo.
Love myself a conference call.
Yeah. That's fun. You do have to be careful though about the muting and unmuting, like which mic is hot.
Yeah.
I've definitely. I mean, it's not related to motion design, but like, years ago when I would play World of Warcraft, we would have like the same thing. We would have like a small Skype call because you're playing with like 40 people, or 25 people or whatever, and like it would be like 4 of us in a private Skype call, but then we would be in our bigger
Music's still playing, Dave.
Oh, my bad.
Oh,
Sorry.
Continue
have, like,
as you were.
you'd have like the main Ventrilo call or whatever voice program we were using, but yeah, you definitely can get into hot water there.
I did that once on accident when I was shooting. When you'd be shooting, you'd get into a rhythm of turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on, like back in the day when I was shooting high school football or something, and like I'd get out of sync or out of my rhythm or forget one, and then I'd be stopping recording and then during the play, and then start recording during all the BS that I don't need.
So everything you had was just shots of the ground.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
man.
the huddle. You've got an hour of only huddles.
Oh, geez. Oh, geez. Yeah, so that's been fun. You got to be careful with the mute button as well, because sometimes it just doesn't work. Have you ever had that happen? Yeah. Have you ever been on a conference call and had to go to the bathroom?
I try and avoid it as much as possible.
I mean, like where you're like, I have to go in here. I have to stay on the call, and you just mute it, or you leave it on so you can be like, until the very last second, and then you hit mute and you go. And then you're done and you unmute it and you go, yeah, totally. And then you mute it again and you flush and walk out of the room and then unmute it again. But sometimes the mute button doesn't work. I'm just saying there's been a couple times where I've hit mute on my phone and I'm still heard, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've definitely fielded a conference call from like the laundromat or a bathroom or whatever. I've been there. It just happens, you just gotta pray that no one calls you out.
Yeah, if that mute button doesn't work and you rip one, you're in pretty big trouble, I guess. So,
jeez.
I mean, what are you gonna do?
I'm so glad I'm back.
Come on, these. I guarantee you that there's so many people like driving in their cars or sitting at their office right now. They're like, "Oh my god, you don't know how many times I've done that." Mm-hmm. Like, you get in a 2-hour conference call and you're not saying anything for 45 minutes, and you're just like, "Oh my god, this is torture." Yeah, I guarantee you, there's other people on the other end of the line who have been in the bathroom before.
My favorite is when like you're having a conference call and someone, so like for example, me, Dave, and someone else were on a conference call the other day with talking to someone, and then the person would ask a question, and it's kind of like that there's that short silence when the three people who are being asked the same question are determining who's going to be the first one to jump in. It's that awkward silence before you're like, okay, who's gonna take this one?
Right.
And
then you all go,
no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Because I really don't want to talk right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the joys. Anyway.
It's pretty good.
That was my favorite part of being a staffer, was like anytime a money question would come up, I'd just be like, this isn't me, man. I just press buttons in After Effects. Like,
yeah, I'm a button pusher.
Talk to your account manager for that portion of.
Yeah, you're gonna want to talk to the partner here who runs the place.
Yeah. Some other weekly things. This is bye week for Liam this week on the Redshift Thursdays. Hopefully pretty soon on the bye weeks for Liam, we can start doing some other streams as well once we get this project out of the way. Also, I wanted to just take a moment and talk about Coca-Cola branding and how it got me. And I feel almost used. For a long time now, you've seen the Coke bottles, the plastic bottles of 20 ounces, and they have the names on them, and they say, share a Coke with so-and-so.
Yeah.
Right? All of that. I really didn't think about what the purpose of that advertising is for until the other day.
Do you realize that advertising, like for the longest time, Coke sales, like sale of Coke and Diet Coke, were going down every year? And when they introduced that advertising was the first year they actually started going up.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing because it's been one of those things where I'll see it and I'll snap something. Like one time I saw there was it you, Matt, who sent me a picture of like Nick Campbell, or one that said Nick and Campbell?
Yeah, there was one next to it that said Campbell, and then I looked and there was one that said Nicholas Campbell. I thought it was pretty funny.
So you sent me that. It's like you see it and you send a picture, haha. And then the other day I saw one and it had my daughter's name on it. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to snap a picture. I'm like, no, I'll just buy it for her. I'm like, she doesn't even drink Coke.
Yep.
What am I doing? And then I got to the counter and I'm like, man, I really fell for that.
Yeah,
I really did.
I've got one that has my kid's name on it as well. I've also got one. I've got the last name Sanchez. I'm just looking for the Rick one.
Oh, nice. Oh, I'm sure there's a Rick one.
So
the Morty one finds the Rick one. To find.
You ship it to Matt.
Yeah. Just ship it to me if you find a Rick one.
Also, we got to do a shout out to Sensitive Cube.
Yes.
Yes, dude, he hit a year of rando renders.
1 year of rando renders. He's been using our rando render for over a year now.
Yeah.
That many dailies?
What?
That many dailies?
That many dailies. Yeah. And he's also been doing like animations with them as well. Which is way cool, dude. He that guy is amazing. So amazing. And it's cool seeing him, like you can see him progress. Yeah. You know, if you look at his first one and you look at his one now, it just goes to show the power of like, you know, doing dailies and stuff like that.
Power of rando render.
I mean, I did 100 dailies. Crap, that was 3 years ago now, and even in 100, you can see from number 1 to number 99.
Yeah.
You know, you can see it right there. So
yeah. I was talking
Well-
to Phil, Raid Zero, the other day, and on Skype, and he was telling me, he's been doing a lot of retouching work and stuff, and then he took some time off, like a week off, and he just wanted to do straight C4D, like all of his own stuff. And he said he's just been learning so much, just being in it all day, and I'm kind of jealous of that because, we have different projects where we'll jump over to like After Effects, or I'll be in After Effects for a large amount of time. We kind of split the time, or at least me, I kind of split the time between After Effects and C4D. And it makes me kind of jealous that I love it when we can just be in it, for like days or months.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, I think we met Sensitive Cube at...
We did.
SIGGRAPH? Was it SIGGRAPH last year?
It was
Hopefully
SIGGRAPH
he's
last
at
year.
SIGGRAPH. I don't know if he's a listener of the show or not.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about that, so we'll have to send a
Should
little
use
tweet as well.
One of his things as the show art.
Oh yeah,
Say,
yeah.
1 year Sensitive Cube, 1 year render.
Yeah, I should mention it like next time I do a tutorial or something, or next time I show off rando render, I should like show all of them like really fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And I haven't updated that page in so long. It's gonna take me
it would just
a while.
be his.
It would just
all
be
of his
his
stuff.
his feed.
I don't really know. I mean, I need to check some of the tags and see if people have been doing it lately, because we haven't really been pushing it.
Yeah.
So
in case you don't know what it is,
yeah.
on our site, brograph.com/rando render, you can click a button and it'll give you just a couple of random things to put together. So basically, here, let's go there right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just your prompt, because that's, the struggle of doing dailies. I'll just speak to my experience doing it, was the open book or the blank page problem.
Mm-hmm.
When you have too much creativity or potential, you kind of get stuck and, paralyzed and not doing anything.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my dailies, I would just like see a billboard and like driving or whatever, just you latch onto some little thing. And I think the rando render is an example of that.
Yeah. So for example, we just got a gel lamp, or I'll click it, bamboo hatch radio, neon truck, robotic camera. I mean, all this is pretty cool,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway.
You can see a lot of samples on the site too, and I really need to update these. I mean, it's been almost a year, I think, since I updated.
Yeah, totally.
There's like hundreds more, and if you do one, make sure that you Instagram
Hashtag
or Twitter it and hashtag it, with rando render. But
Totes.
we need to update the database of stuff and things.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Is there a way to contribute words into the algorithm?
Tell us what they are, and we'll include them into the. Yeah.
Yeah. We need to do an update on that before SIGGRAPH, I think.
I temporarily made a rando render plugin where every time you open a new project in Cinema 4D, it would give you a rando render, And I did it was my first foray into Python and stuff like that, and creating Python like plugins. And I had no idea what I was doing. So when I created the plugin and accidentally put it somewhere to where it would run on startup, and I could never figure out where to go to get rid of it.
To turn it off.
So like anytime I open R17, it's there. It opens up a rando render. It's pretty funny.
If you look on Instagram, for example, just do the hashtag rando render. There's actually 427 rando renders.
365 of them are.
I know, right? Probably. I mean, look, all of these say Sensitive Cube on them right now at this point. If you go further back, you find other people that were doing it when we were really pushing it. No, this one is, I don't know, unless he forgot to put his name on it. But yeah, when you go back, like if I were to take this like way, way back a couple of years ago or a year ago, you'll see other people's. There were a lot of people doing some really cool stuff for a while, but I mean, it's hard to keep up with that for that long. I'm really surprised. You need to give him like an award if we see him or something,
Right.
So, man.
Yeah, it's truly a commitment.
Oh, dude, Side Effects Houdini actually posted one of them, like retweeted or reposted one of Sensitive Cubes. That's cool.
Nice.
Right on.
Gosh, there's so many. Like, I haven't looked at any of these some of them it's like wait, what were the key words? You know what I mean? That would cause you to have to make something like that, you know?
Yeah. Gosh, man, that's cool.
Yeah. There's so much. Anyway, what else do I have from the week here? Oh, that's pretty much it. Check out our Slack, and I've got a new idea. It's time to spread the word about Slack a little bit. Let people know that you're on the Slack, and just go to our invite link and send people a link to the invite. If you have been following Slack the last couple days, you'll probably notice that is it Somei who made the Oppo cell phone spot?
I have no idea.
You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, yeah, no, it's super awesome. I don't know if it's pronounced Somei or Somai.
That's what I was trying to figure out this morning. I was actually asking David Ariev if he knew, because I was like, I don't want to say it wrong. But
one of the members in the Slack, Pedro, he actually extended that invite out to Somei and got him to come in, and it's been cool. We'll see, if he jumps in and contributes to the conversation or whatever. But yeah, it would be super awesome to get more. I mean, getting more people involved is always cool.
Yeah.
Especially with high profile work, it just attracts so much attention. So
yeah, that's the great part about sending a link. It's like, hey, we're in this really cool community, you should check this out. That's why I brought it up, is because Pedro
this is a cell phone commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And
it's like, yeah,
he single-handedly basically did this in 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. One machine in an online render farm.
Gosh.
And
one machine.
Yeah.
It's so good. So there's going to be a link to that in the show notes. You can check that out if you haven't already seen it, because I'm sure a lot of people have seen that already. And then also I wanted to talk about the Monday meeting, because there's a channel in there for that now. And I want to make one of those. I was getting set up and doing a meeting and a conference call this morning. So
do we have a Monday meeting one?
Yeah, it's in Slack, yo.
Well, in the Slack, there's a channel called Monday Meetings,
and
which
link to that.
Yeah. Mark.
I'm just looking at the ones that I am not on. We have a blacklist channel.
Yeah.
That one's secret.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just.
That's funny.
Yeah, blacklist is when you work with a client and they completely hose you over and you put them on the list.
Yep. So just be aware, if you're one of those people, we're talking.
God, can you imagine? I don't know the legality in that whole thing. Someone come back to us and be like, holding us liable.
What? Because we're talking about our. Nah. I totally. I'm down for that.
I don't think so either. But these days I'm.
Just make the
freedom of speech, bro.
Just make the channel description. All accounts in this are alleged.
Right.
Right. There we go.
Completely clear.
I think actually all we have to do is
on YouTube saying I don't own any of these characters. Then it's just like, all right, I'm good.
This music does not belong to me, and I don't own the copyright.
Yeah. All assets belong to the copyright holders. Like you're done. That's it. You can post whatever you want as long as you disclaim that, right?
Actually, I think if on our website at the bottom we just put a big asterisk and it just says allegedly.
Or do
all of it.
The South Park thing. It's like any similarities to real people is purely coincidental or whatever.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yep. So Monday meetings. So tell us about Monday meetings, because I see these links and notes and agendas and stuff, and I'm like, I really want to check this out.
Yeah, so I think Liam described it a little bit. I mean, I think him and Mark are the ones who are kind of getting the ball rolling on that, and Liam talked about it last week, where it's just kind of like it's a video conference call thing. A couple people hop on, and we just talk about this morning we talked about your rates. Either freelancing in a studio versus freelancing remotely. Is there a difference? Should there be a difference? Are there expectations that are different between those? Also, stuff like do you share project files? Do you upcharge for project files? Do you withhold project files because you might believe that if you turn them over, then you'll be cut out of doing revision work? You know, these are all valid talking points. And I think each of us have different experiences from different markets, different regions. And I think it's, you know, a pretty beneficial thing to hop in and get other perspectives, you know, because every region's going to be different. You know, when I give my examples of, oh, this is how we do folder structures here, that's going to be based on like, oh, well, we do a lot of X, Y, and Z work.
Right.
And that mandates like having a project file structure that does ABC thing differently than DEF, you know, and
ABC, always be
organizing. Yeah.
Always be archiving.
Yeah. So, speaking of Octane,
why
That's
not?
terrible.
I don't know. I just wanted. Speaking of Octane, let's go to Ravcock. Yeah, that was the worst segue ever.
Worst.
No, let's
So
talk
bad.
about render engines because you're really big into Redshift. And if people don't know your work, like give people kind of a rundown of what you do for the most part.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a C4D person. I like to think that I've positioned myself as a freelancer in my area as the quote unquote the Cinema 4D person. Obviously, there are a handful of other artists, but I've done everything I think in my power to make me be the first person who comes to mind when people want a freelancer for Cinema 4D. All my work is kind of like on site, at least up until this point. So that's worked out well for me. Just kind of focusing on this year, I'm trying to push a little bit more into like cinematic developments, you know, trying to make almost movie-like, you know, shot compositions, lighting styles. You know, in the past, I've done kind of the, you know, the stereotypical Octane-y, you know, greeble-y, emissive light, whatever stuff, and you know that's all fun and cool. But I'm trying to branch out into some other stuff. A lot of cars and other random interests that I have, like Godzilla and Gundams and whatever cool stuff. So just trying to find ways to like make work as consistently as I can that is also interesting to me. Like by picking subjects or topics that I like and I'm engaged in. You know, it's just like bringing my real life hobbies into cinema. You know, it increases engagement. So at least I've found.
Did you build? Okay, you did a photo at some point, and it was like a garage of all your cars, basically, or a render of a garage of all your cars. Did you build every single one of those from scratch, or are they just models that you had? Like, what's the?
So it's a bit of a mix. Like, so with a lot of the automotive stuff that I do, sometimes it's a model that somebody has, you know, painstakingly modeled and they sold on TurboSquid. Other times it's a model that I got from a friend and maybe they got it from somebody who, I don't know, who knows where the model came from. And so they kind of come in a very variety of quality levels. You know, some of them will be better than others. One big thing with, I guess, cars in particular is like headlights and taillights. A lot of that needs to be like properly modeled, or the geometry needs to be there. For the example of like a headlight, you know, the different layers of glass or acrylic, whatever. You know, some of them might have ridges horizontally, some of them might have ridges vertically, some of them might be like knurled, you know, like on like a microphone, you see like that little like kind of crosshatch diamond sort of texture. Who knows, you know, and so you, to most accurately represent that in a render, I find that having geometry for that is the most important thing on replicating that. So like I'll go through and either remodel or fix up existing parts of those models. You know, sometimes you can get away with just leaving the large portions of the body like alone and not having to touch them too much. Other times I will completely customize it and, you know, make like side skirts and fenders and big spoiler and all that fun stuff, from when I was a kid playing Need for Speed. I might want to do that from time to time. So it's just kind of like all over the place. But to answer your question, in large part, no, I'm not modeling the cars entirely from scratch by hand myself. I'm certain in my skill that I could do that if I wanted to devote that much time, as a resource to a specific car. But
I've heard that also, like you mentioned, headlights and taillights. I've heard that can be one of the most like annoying parts when dealing with like cars, like 3D cars and stuff like that, because they never know whether or not like these are the final production ones, or something like that. I don't know who I heard that.
Car.
Oh yeah,
or like headlights are almost always going to change at last minute or something like that. I can't remember who I heard that from.
I've definitely encountered that. More so on the shot video side, like through my previous employer, they would do a decent amount of automotive stuff, shooting like really gorgeous beauty stuff with like Russian arm, cameras and, the whole 9 yards. And there have been times where I've been given footage of a shoot and they were like, the car was painted yesterday. There are no bulbs in the headlights. We need you to track in X, Y, or Z lens flare or, whatever into this footage. So like, I guess in a way that I can say there is probably some validity to your question, Matt. Stuff like that can change really quickly, like on the pre-production cycle, while the car is being like debuted and they're getting the marketing and press stuff out. A lot of times when one of these cars isn't out, there might be one or two functioning prototypes in the world. There's a specific truck. I'm not sure. I don't even remember if it's been out or whatever, but I'll just say it was a truck, and we got footage of it, and it was the truck. And when we got footage of it at the end of our shoot day, well, I wasn't on set, but the people that I was working with, when they were on set, they handed the keys off to the next media team who's going to go drive it out to a different state and do a different shoot with it. And it was the truck.
That's funny. That's interesting.
Well, the reflections, I imagine, are an issue too, because I've done quite a few spots that happen to have a car in it somewhere, but not necessarily as the hero. And so I've never really done any of these like really, really spectacular like hero car spots or shoots or anything for that matter that really required the reflections to be just on point. But the geometry affects that so much. I imagine that it's got to be a little bit tedious when you're trying to do something. I see all these amazing car shots on the Redshift and Facebook group, and I'm like, one little small error in the geometry and the reflections are going to look funky. You have nice lines that just kind of disappear.
100%. And I guess kind of looping back around to the rendering thing is, I use Redshift as my primary render engine as of this year. And I do a decent amount of car work for fun. I'm not going to say that I do commercial car work because up to this point I haven't. So I don't want to postulate, make myself out to be something that I'm not. But I see Redshift being used a pretty decent amount, definitely increasing a lot more in one of the Facebook groups I'm in is called like Automotive CGI or whatever. And they're like world-class, rendering artists, retouching artists in that group. And I'm starting to see more and more Redshift being used in that as opposed to something like Octane. And I'll say from my experience, the fact that Redshift can go out of core on its memory, you're not limited to whatever VRAM size you have on your video card. Not having that limit allows me to do things like render 10 cars in one frame, because that is one project file. It's not like those were like instanced or like xrefed or whatever into that file. If you were to open up that file, there would be 10 nulls, and in each one of those nulls would be a different car, full interior, wheels, even little stuff like bolts in some cases, and because of Redshift's difference, just fundamental difference being a biased render engine. It allows it to do things that Octane, or any engine that is unbiased, it just can't.
Yeah.
Right. Now the geometry thing is solved at least soon, but
right, yeah, and when Octane 4 rolls around and you can go out of core with the geometry, I'm definitely going to give it a spin. I installed the 4.0 something XB2, I don't know, some experimental build, and because people were like, "Hey, the denoiser's out," and I turned it on and it turned it into a smeary mess, and I was like, "Meh, all right, I'll shelve that for a little bit longer."
Yeah. I'm really ready for the full build of that, because as soon as we're done with this project, it's like I really want to dig into 4. There's so many new features that were even in 3.08 that I haven't touched because we're just.
I've been trying to convince you that we should, try out Redshift for a project, or Arnold.
There's never
for a
time
project.
for it. That's the problem. It's just like. It's like, do we really want to do this now and then run into problems? It's almost like, for me personally, I'm going to have to just start doing dailies in it or something if I want to get into it. Well, unless I have a whole bunch of extra time to work on a project, but that's not usually the case. The clients usually want it tomorrow, and it's like, well, if you want it tomorrow, I'm not going to learn how to do this thing in Redshift. I'm going to stick with Octane. I think personally, for me, that's my biggest hang up. And that might be the case for a lot of other people. It's just like, it's not that I can't do it. It's just I could do this faster right now and get it done, get it out the door. And
Liam says he's a Skype call away.
Yeah, and
yeah, I know.
I am as well. I used Redshift for the first time in June last year. I did this teal colored Porsche 993. I grabbed the model. I grabbed this little shipping container thing. I kind of made a little loading dock sort of scene. And I was like, all right, I'm going out of town next week or whatever. I was staff then, so I wouldn't have been taking on freelance work or whatever. But just I was poking around at night and I was like, okay, it's a little bit different of a node graph, but I know my way around it. Rendering is rendering, doing materials is pretty much the same. It's like, okay, one of them it's called a gradient node, one of them it's called a ramp node, but you just build up that information over time. It's like, if I were to count every render engine I've quote unquote learned, from when I started in Maya 6 years ago, I don't have enough fingers to count that many render engines if I'm being honest, but that doesn't make me a better artist. It just makes me ever so slightly more familiar with getting up to speed on the next one. So let's say Arnold for GPU comes out. Let's just be crazy and say CGraph or whatever, in 2 months it gets announced. I'm going to be all on board with that, and I'm going to be jumping in right away. But I'm not going to be afraid and say oh, I know nodes in a different system because nodes are nodes.
Yeah. Do you have a background in Arnold?
I used it for a month at my last freelance gig. I had used Arnold. Man, this is when the first Pacific Rim came out. Okay. And I think Sony used Arnold a pretty decent amount on that movie. And so at the time it was kind of the hot new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And this is when it was Arnold only and it wasn't publicly available, I think.
Okay.
You had to be a studio to buy it. So I had a teacher who worked at a studio and he would demo it for us. Because he had access to one of the a license key or whatever, because you could just, it'd be one of those crazy invite only things, and so that was 5 years ago, and I was like, okay, the way the render settings work in Arnold is kind of weird because your anti-aliasing quality, whatever you want to think of, in Octane your samples would be 2048 or 4096 or whatever.
Yeah.
In Arnold it's 4.
Yeah.
It just
It's
It's 1 through 6.
I actually I really enjoy Arnold. So I went, I've been playing around with all of them, and the last chance I had to play around, I played around in Arnold, and I enjoyed it more than I did Redshift. I felt like it was much more familiar to me. This is just me personally.
Yeah.
But I always had a hard time clearing up noise. That was my biggest beef. was clearing up noise, and then I'd up the samples and it would just jack up my render time a whole lot.
Yeah, it's a fine line, and I'm not going to proclaim to be any sort of expert in Arnold specifically. I used it in production a total of 4 weeks. It's like you're never going to learn anything.
Come on, you're not an expert in 4 weeks?
Yeah, all right. Wait, who would have known? But there are some shots that went to final that, I was the one who submitted it to the farm. So like, I was finishing some shots, and I guess that's kind of a testament to, Arnold's familiarity, like you said, is it's not so bad that you can't just jump into it. And I don't think most render engines would fall to that problem, honestly. I think they're all pretty capable and they're all pretty straightforward to get into. I think Cinema by nature lends itself to being a little bit more user-friendly. And with that, I think comes more of a willingness to like get into and like try new stuff.
Yeah.
There's not like as much of an apprehension, I think, from artists who use Cinema to like, jump into a new plugin or, let's get into Substance Design or let's get into ZBrush, whatever. I think it's like it's a big pipeline and people are always willing to help out. And I know I was definitely spamming the Arnold channel in your guys' Slack when I was on that job because I would run into this issue where I'm not getting the right shadow for this like glass cup that I'm rendering or whatever, because you would expect like a see-through glass cup like this to emit some sort of shadow from the empty part and a different sort of shadow from like the liquid part or whatever. And just like figuring out, okay, I would know how to do this in every other engine that I'm familiar with.
How do I translate that information to another one? Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you got to go find the opaque checkbox and uncheck.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever, every engine's going to have that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess let's kind of slowly transition into our topics while we're talking about render engines, because while we're talking about this, I did want to mention one of our topics, which was the Instagram thing, because we were, talking before the show, and you were talking about, scheduling your posts, scheduling your social stuff, what works, what doesn't work. We're not really big on the Instagram thing. We posted some stuff here and there. I do notice that when we post dailies and we put a million motion graphics hashtags, we tend to get more likes and we get more followers. So what are your findings right now, like as far as experimenting with that whole thing?
Yeah. So obviously caveat, I'm not a social media professional. I'm a rendering artist. So I guess maybe try this if you want to, if you're a listener, but I've been posting for the last going on 2 months now. I've posted once a week. And I try to post either on Mondays or Wednesdays, somewhere in the noon to 3 o'clock Eastern time, somewhere in that range. And for whatever reason, I don't know, because now Instagram is run by an algorithm. I don't know if that algorithm is happy at that time.
Yeah.
I don't have a business account on my Instagram, so I don't track like the analytics and like page views or watch time or whatever. I'm not into like all of that. But what I will say is at the sometime end of April, beginning of May, I was somewhere in like the 500 follower mark. And now I'm a little bit over 1,100. So I've about doubled by kind of employing this quote unquote strategy of once a week. I'm putting the same amount of effort into what I would do at night and on weekends, in my fun time as, somebody who just sits in front of their computer an unhealthy amount of time and is always in Cinema. But I'm trying to compact that into like a once a week quality animation of some kind. And I found that is like really drastically improved engagement levels. I guess another benefit of that is like the work, quote unquote, being higher end or better, however you want to quantify that.
What's nice is your work doesn't just look like it's a bunch of gobbledygook thrown together with an emissive material, and
Yeah, I mean, I had that. If you scroll back far enough, you get to my 100 days. You'll see some, some real vintage Beeple 2014 era stuff.
Nice.
Not going to shy away from that. But like the last couple of weeks or in months, trying to put in higher end work gets reposted by like those big other accounts that will have like 200K followers. And they just repost other people's stuff. I mean, the times when they tag the person or they put the little like repost icon in the corner and it says your handle, that stuff is all good and cool. And it certainly helps. I had the train station animation that me and my roommate collaborated on a couple weeks ago that got, reposted probably 10 times across a handful of different accounts and, got like little features on websites and stuff. And, if you can sit in front of your computer 7 days a week, do you want to make one post that's 7 days of effort, or do you want to make 7 posts that are 1 day of effort?
Yeah,
right.
I'm just experimenting with it.
That train animation was super cool.
Yeah, and totally hats off to my roommate, Nick Parenti. He's tagged in that. He, obviously did the bulk of it with the character stuff and like the environment. Because I did the 3D train and the platform, he did everything else. So he did like the illustrated trees, the illustrated background, the illustrated characters. So he put a lot more time into it than I did. But that's sort of the fun thing, that series that we have. I kind of came up with it about a year and a half ago. I call it 5 Dimensions because it's like a 3D thing mixed with a 2D thing. 3 plus 2 is, I
like that.
This is real. Like that. This is real.
I thought you were going to go into some interstellar type stuff.
No, there's no bookcase. There's no bookcase here. No, it's just simple grade school math here. But yeah, it's an opportunity. It's cool because it allows me to work as much as I want on a piece. It allows the other person to work as much as they want on a piece, and I kind of like built that little train thing. I built that before we went to NAB. That was like 2 months ago. You know, if I open up the V1 project file of the train and I date the first render, like that's April, I don't know, 3rd or something. And then he just took his time, really developing all the character stuff. We knew going into it what we wanted to do because, he's more into the After Effects and kind of like explainer video side of motion graphics. So he's, really experienced with like doing thumbnail sketches and, actually like boarding out an idea. Who would have thought that like if you draw the little thing out as an idea beforehand, you'll have a better idea if it works. Before you get into the computer. And like my, caveman brain, like I can't, give me a pencil and a paper and I shut off. So I relied on him a lot to kind of develop the composition. I was like, okay, you like Japan, I like Japan, you've been to Japan. He shot a bunch of photos of that actual train station. And I was like, okay, let's, take a couple of those pictures and come up with an idea here. And then he like kind of thumbnailed it out. If you check out his website, nickparenti.work, he has like a really kind of detailed breakdown of, he's got all his character thumbnails, the early concept sketches, isolated versions of the characters, all that cool stuff. So if you like that piece, if you saw it on my, social media or other social media around the webs, definitely check out his in-depth thing. Cause I'm giving him all that, all that leeway to do the breakdowns and do the process stuff. Cause, I grabbed a model of a train, I fixed it up, put some materials on it, and like just animated it along the tracks. And then he did so much more to make that into like a cool piece. I don't want to take the wind out of his sails on that. So that's something I feel really strongly about. Is like I love collaborating, but I'm also like hyper detailed on like writing out like what I did, what I didn't do. If you look at my demo reel on Vimeo, and you open up the description, it looks like a term paper bibliography. and that's just like for me as an artist, I don't ever want to be accused of, taking credit for somebody else's work.
Right.
If I freelance at a studio, upcoming cycle.
I mean, that's really good. Oh, I was going to say that. Like, if you're
Yeah.
sending out your demo reel to someone, you know, the first question with any person who's checking out a demo reel is how much of this did you do?
Yeah.
You know, and if you're saying, oh, I just bought the stock models off of Turbo Squid, blah blah blah, or something like that, you know, it's.
Well, I'm gonna be totally open to that. Like, if somebody wants me to render a car, or like animate a car driving and rendering it, like, you're dang well sure that I'm gonna be buying that stock model.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be, doing my, process of like maybe retopologizing it or whatever. And like, I'm not modeling a car.
Yeah.
If you want me to render and animate a car driving around, I'm not modeling the car. If you want me to model the car and pay me to model the car, then I'll model it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody expects that,
Right, because that's totally not how production works.
Right.
We just finished a thing with, it's a thing that you use on your computer every day. It's not quite out yet, so I'm not going to say it. It's not like a new product or whatever, but it's just, the company involved or whatever. And we're like, oh, we need a model of a microchip. It's like, okay, we jump on Turbo Squid, we Google microchip, PCB, motherboard, whatever, and we try to find the closest fit, and then we tweak that, from an art direction standpoint. It's like, okay, I don't like the way that these little resistors are shaped, or like, we don't like them being orange, we want them to be gold, or whatever. Then you go in and you edit it. Okay, like, I don't need to model a microchip from scratch if a stock model version of that exists somewhere, because it's a better use of my time to take that model and not have to start from scratch and get to a better ending product, something that looks more beautiful or animates in a cooler way, because I was able to devote other time or, other resources than just having to model that from scratch.
For sure. For sure.
And this whole year I've kind of approached, my work, on Instagram and whatever, is I'm not shying away from downloading a stock model of, that cable car gondola thing that I just made. It's like, okay, yeah, I bought that cable car. I could have spent a weekend modeling that, but does that change the end result? No, because I wanted to make like a moody kind of atmospheric, sound design thing. I jumped into Audition, and I started kind of learning my way, poking around through that, obviously with help from friends in Slack and Twitter and stuff. But it wasn't like, oh, I want to model a cable car. It was like, no, I want to render this cable car going into like this misty, ravine, and I want to build up this like sort of like Silent Hill or like whatever vibe,
The point was to create the image, not to practice modeling.
Right. And on the flip side of that, because I didn't model it, I'm not going to be showing like wireframes, like a wireframe render that shows like, the topology lines, because I didn't render that, the shoes that I rendered a couple months ago, I didn't model those. So you're not seeing me do a breakdown of that. It's like, okay, I added the laces and I added like the stitches and stuff, but to me that still doesn't warrant enough to say that like I transformatively altered the model in a substantial enough way that like me as just my personal outlook, I don't feel that I've done enough to that to warrant saying like, oh yeah, I modeled this. Yeah, because I didn't in that case.
And I've seen people ask that question either in email or Slack or other places about client work. And I'm like, no, dude, like there is no reason you have to build anything from scratch for a client. Like, it's like, well,
unless they're specifically asking for it, then
yeah. I mean, it's just like, oh, you need a car in the scene, do you want me to build that for you? I don't think any client is going to say, yes, go ahead and spend weeks and weeks modeling that. They're going to be like, oh, you can get that for $100 on Turbo Squid. Yeah, let's do that. So,
but on the flip side, I consider myself a proficient modeler. A big part of the previous month-long freelance job that I did, the first 2 weeks almost entirely were modeling, and then I kind of jumped in and modeled some extra stuff in the second 2 weeks. But like in this one shot, we needed a printer to fall in from off screen and kind of like land in a trash bin. it had symbolism within, the rest of the piece or whatever, kind of the narrative that the spot was telling. But like, they're like, well, we don't want to like go Google the HP 3004B printer model or whatever, and then have to like get that cleared by legal because we use like a copyrighted thing. Sometimes that will happen. So you will need to model a thing from scratch. And maybe your art director or whoever will have feedback on saying like, oh, we want the bevels to be kind of this big because we're going to be doing a really harsh side light on this shot. And we want the specular, the little hits around the rounded edges. We want those to react in a certain way. It's like, okay, based on the parameters that you just outlined for me, I want a smaller bevel, like a tighter, roundness amount, and so you kind of need to know, I think you need to know how to be able to do every part of this, but at the same time, that doesn't give you an excuse to do everything. You need to pick you need to pick your battles when you're in production. And, sometimes that means buying a stock model of a printer. Other times it means modeling like a really rough, crappy version and then going through and doing like your primary animation and then lighting, which is what wound up happening. And then you go back over and you do a second pass at the model, a week before production wraps, because now you found more time in the budget or, the schedule opened up in a way that allowed you to go back and revise that model, for example.
Yeah. So, using Instagram is one way of getting your work out there and getting your name out there. But another thing that is really good as well, of course, is networking and meetups. Are you involved in any meetups in your area? Like, how is the industry where you live? I think I've been told that there's a pretty strong community in Detroit, right?
Yeah, no, there's a super awesome community here. People want to think that all of the cool motion graphics is happening in LA and New York, but I'm here to say that there's some cool stuff happening in the Midwest. In Detroit, Chicago, Half Res, they've got a cool thing going on. But here in Michigan, we've got Michigan MoGraph Mondays. It happens consistently the last Monday of every month, barring like Memorial Day or Christmas or whatever. But yeah, that's tonight because if you check the calendar, this is the last Monday of June. Yeah, there's no interrupting holiday, so yeah, there's a MoGraph Monday tonight, just like there's a MoGraph Monday every month. The organizer of our event, Julie Kraft, she's done an amazing job keeping consistent, and it's been going strong monthly. It's about to hit its 4th year. In August. There were some prior to August 2014 that were maybe like a little bit more sporadic, or maybe it was like alternating months, or attendance like, oh, there was only like a handful of people, so we did like way less formally. But now it's kind of grown into being somewhere in the 20 to 30 mark, people attending every month. There are some times where it will happen at like a different studio, because it does kind of roam around in the Detroit area. There are probably 20 different venues that it could be held at, different studios, different agencies, whatever. And so some of them will be a little bit bigger just by nature than others. Some studios might be, a little bit more famous, a little bit more sought after, whatever. Or a particular presenter might be like, oh, this is a super awesome job. We want to see more of this or whatever. And we'll do like breakdowns, presentations, pretty good mix of cinema and After Effects. And even the After Effects stuff, sometimes it's not purely After Effects. Like it'll be, a decent amount of like Photoshop, Illustrator work. Because, we've kind of got like all of the disciples covered. There's some world-class cell animators here.
That's cool.
Like really top-notch like cell animation, frame by frame stuff. And then we've got a huge stable of people who are super awesome in After Effects, designation, quote unquote, and then there's a pretty decent contingent of Cinema 4D people here that I'm super happy to call myself a part of. I present pretty regularly. I kind of have to like keep myself in check. It's not a Cinema 4D meetup. it's a MoGraph meetup, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, I could present something every single month if I wanted to, but I don't think that people would want to see that every single month. I mean, maybe they would, but you know, it's definitely cool to open it up. You know, the last month we had some of the people who do cell animation. Colin and Rachel, they presented like some really killer stuff that they had both worked on recently. You know, they've been on like, you know, other podcasts and you know, getting their names out. So we're all kind of in a, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats sort of.
Have you found that the networking and the meetups and stuff like that, that through that you've been able to get a whole lot more work?
Oh yeah, no, totally. I've been freelance since the beginning of December, and all of my jobs that I've done like as a motion graphics artist have been on-site jobs, and all of those have been through people that I knew or had met or had been referred to by people that I've met at our MoGraph Mondays. You know,
that's awesome.
The first big thing that I did was like a 6-week auto show thing, and my name was referred to the producer there by one of the people who was an organizer of our event, and then another, you know, a second recommendation who was like, yeah, get this guy, you're doing Cinema 4D, you know, go get him on board. And it's pretty much just been snowballed, you know, that same way since.
That's awesome.
So to answer your question, I'm really huge on local networking. You know, I know it's easier said than done to start a meetup in your area if one doesn't exist. You know, I know that you guys have the DFW C4D thing, and I think it would be kind of cool to talk about like what each of ours does differently. Because we're a little bit smaller, lower key, but it's more consistent. And I think you guys are kind of like the flip side of that. Like they're bigger, but they're less.
Like twice a year.
Frequent.
Yeah. It's kind of like a quarter res for DFW. And at those events, and this is kind of what Liam was commenting on in Slack this morning, even going to NAB, CGraph, half res, all of those, you really have to talk to people at those too in the same way that you do at networking events. And even if it's somebody who is, you know, who you feel is maybe too high up there, too important to talk to, I don't think for the most part that anybody really feels like that in this industry, that, you know, oh, why are you talking to me? You know, that kind of thing. I think everybody's willing to, you know, I mean, maybe there's a couple that are a little snooty about it, but for the most part, I think our industry is like very open, you know, so don't feel like, you know, oh, it's Nick Campbell, I can't go talk to him. Like, he's a very nice person and wants to talk to you about what you've been doing and, you know, dailies or, I don't know, 5-second projects or whatever it is. So, you know, don't be afraid to talk to these people. And then on the flip side of that, the other thing Liam said is don't assume that just because you don't know somebody or you've never heard of somebody before that they're not a good contact. That's the other side of it, because just talk to everybody. Don't try not to like put.
There's a lot of us out there who are very, you know, outgoing and love to talk and love to chat and stuff like that. And there's some of us who are super quiet, just like to watch the presentations or something like that. And, you know, but they would still be, they're probably sometimes better artists than those who
those
are
the
out,
sleepers.
You know?
Those are the sleepers. It's like, I don't know who that person is. They're not really talking to anybody. And then you find out like they've done like this crazy, amazing piece that you saw years ago and you followed all their stuff, but you didn't recognize them because of their Twitter handle or something. It's like just everybody's on the same field. Raid Zero says, I heard Nick Campbell bit the head off of a bat. I think that
I think he did it live on the Max on Stream once.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But no, you're totally right. If none of us knew what Beeple would look like, if none of us knew what he looked like, and he showed up like at an NAB or whatever, he'd look like the most unassuming person.
The accountant. You would think he was the accountant.
You're totally right. And like chat with everybody who's standing around at this meetup or standing around at this booth. You know, NAB, a CGraph, whatever the case may be. If you've got something different in your area, attend that and try to strike up conversations with everyone you can. If you've got little name badges or whatever, just say hey, walk up and I just say hey, my name's Billy, your name's whatever, and then you strike up a conversation and say, because at the end of the day, everyone's there for the same reason. If you're hanging around the Maxon booth, chances are you use C4D, and chances are you can make a conversation about using C4D because
there may be people that I probably don't like their politics or the way they treat people, but we all speak the same language when it comes to C4D.
Yeah, I mean, I might not like what emoji reacts somebody uses in the Slack channel, but that doesn't mean that I'm gonna turn away, a handshake or a hug, on a show floor or whatever, sharing a sandwich or whatever in the middle of a long day on the floor,
And Liam says, "Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but my name is Billy, so call me maybe."
Yeah. Or if you're Raid Zero and nobody knows your name's Phil, just say hey, my name's Raid Zero, and the off chance that you run into somebody at the booth who doesn't use C4D, then they're gonna be like, okay, this guy's an alien. He just presented a superhero name to me.
All right. We're using our superhero names.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man. But
that was the story at NAB, right? Was it?
Yeah,
who was it?
Damon.
Damon Milstead.
Yeah,
who was talking to Phil about meeting with Raid Zero or something.
No, we were all on the train, or they were all on the train, and Damon was saying, "Oh yeah, man, I can't wait to see Raid Zero's presentation." While Phil is literally sitting right next to him, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've been working on it for a while." He goes, "Wait, you're Raid Zero?"
Yeah.
I've had that happen a lot at all these NAB and SIGGRAPHs and stuff, where we'll be hanging out Jan Sledecko, I didn't know who I didn't recognize, I didn't know who he was. I knew the name, but I didn't know who he was when he was hanging out with us. And then he said his name, and it was just completely blown away.
He's like a crazy world-class artist, and he's just standing next to you. They're talking about, oh man, my feet hurt. We've been standing here at the booth all day, or we're all humans, and everyone will communicate. Some people a little bit differently. Other people might be more introverted or whatever. But but I guess on the flip side of that, if you have an interaction with somebody and maybe they're not as happy, or they're having a hard day or whatever, just be mindful of that. Just, it's the same thing on Twitter or whatever. You have no idea what's going on in people's lives. So don't write off somebody based off one interaction, unless it was something truly vile. But I've been fortunate, I guess, to not have experienced that. Up to this point, kind of in the community. Yeah. So I would say it's probably relatively rare. We're all super cool and we hang out and we chat all the time. So I would like to think that we're above some nasty stuff, but who knows?
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about, because I think you were commenting on this last week during the show, was in the chat room anyway, was we were talking about clients and revisions and things like that. And I think you had some good things to add to that conversation from last week. So you sent some notes as well about, I think, style frames and storyboards and, delivery and all that kind of stuff. And I guess going from last week, just as far as revisions, do you have anything to add to that conversation about what you do as far as going to clients and getting their revisions, how many revisions you do, the process that keeps things in line, keeps the clients in line, so to speak?
I've got some ideas, and I listened to a brief snippet of it again last night to kind of refresh my memory of what the topic you and Liam, or the conversation you guys were on. And I think it was mostly just when a project is starting to wind down and you're coming up on final deliverables, are you past the number of rounds of revision? Do you have like one more left? Is it going to be a substantial revision? You know, kind of that whole conversation. And what I wanted to contribute to that was, you know, I'm in a somewhat unique position. At least I think, in that all of my freelance work happens on site.
That is interesting. That is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
That,
so yeah.
That like how? Okay. Sorry to like just completely throw the question off, but like, I want to know, like, so do you do stuff at home as well? Like freelance work at home, or do you find like you enjoy more going into, because I hate going into people's offices. Like I don't like being forced to get up at a specific time and deal with traffic and stuff. I'd much rather do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, commuting is kind of a drag. You know, I live fairly decent distance outside of, you know, downtown Detroit, you know, so my commute, if I'm going to the city center, is like, you know, maybe 17 miles or whatever. And yeah, at 8:45 in the morning, that kind of sucks. But I did it for almost 4 years. So, you know, I'm pretty used to it. So I don't really mind it. And
what is the reason that those clients want you on site? Is it just because they want to make sure you're working those hours, or is it a hardware thing? Or
it's a good question. It's probably a mix of every conceivable answer you could think of, you know. But by and large, what I would attribute it to is I'm coming in to work at a studio, like a motion graphics studio. It's not really like an agency where I'm like the only person. They're like, hey, we need an animator. You know, I'm not coming in like cold, you know, and being a one-man band, because that I believe I would be able to service them better being home. But in a studio environment, it's like, okay, we've got 2 staffers who are on this job, and they're going to be like the primary, you know, shot finishers. And my role is to come in and to generate assets for them, maybe model stuff, maybe rig some stuff, set up scene files, you know, pass them off to them, and then maybe loop back around to the end and work on finishing some shots as the time schedule kind of opens up. Like that was the case of my last, you know, month-long booking. So you're coming in to be a part of a team, and it's never like vocalized. So I guess I'm maybe just assuming this kind of internally, but like you kind of need to come in and know your place, like know your role. You know, if I'm coming in to model and to set up stuff and maybe animate a handful of things, but I'm not going to be animating and finishing and rendering all 15 shots in a month. Like that's impossible. So you have to, as the studio, they're picking their battles in terms of what are they allowing the freelancer, me in this case, what are they putting me on? Because, you know, as the company, this would be the same thing as like if I was to work with you guys or whatever for the first time, I would imagine that you guys would maybe want to like QC the stuff at the very end just to make sure that I'm not doing something that's going to like derail your guys' business or whatever. Obviously, that's like a crazy, you know, example, and I would never do it, but it doesn't need to be said. It just happens, right? Yeah. You know, I'm not going to be the one sending links to the client when I'm in a studio because they've got a producer or they've got like the business owner or whatever. You know, they're the one actually communicating with the client. Right. And I guess the double-edged sword of that is like, you know, one, I can't say that I was responsible for everything, but I'm not responsible for everything. And that's really cool because when it comes to of revisions and stuff happening, because that budget has been set long in advance of me ever stepping foot through the door. You know, the schedule has been set before I've ever even been contacted on Slack or what, you know, however I've been approached to come in and do this work. You know, a producer met with somebody else and said, okay, we've got budget for 3 weeks and this is what we need. Who are we going to call? And if they call me
Ghostbusters.
Well, yeah. If
Gurngebusters.
If they don't call the Ghostbusters, they call me. And that schedule, that budget, that whatever has already been set. And I'm just coming in and doing it, you know? So yeah, I guess like the rounds of revision thing is like, because I'm shielded from a lot of these conversations, I have to, well, one, I don't have to deal with like, oh my God.
That is convenient. That is very nice.
But the flip side of that is I also don't have input on like, should we push back against this one request,
Right.
or can we spin this other request in a way that allows us to do that thing like, oh, you remember that one test version we did 2 weeks ago on like version 3 of this shot? What if we bring that back? You know, sometimes you don't get to provide that input as the person who's not on staff.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like, you know, it's like one of those double-edged sword things. It's like, you know, I don't have to be in the phone call when somebody on some other things like, oh, we just scrapped 4 shots, but I also don't get to come in and say like, oh, well, what if we redo X, Y, or Z thing and we can salvage stuff from those 4 shots?
But do you still get input? I mean, you still get input. They're just not like feeding you a whole bunch of stuff what to do, right?
Yeah, no, typically. So like, you know, the way that the last job worked out is like, okay, we have a dailies folder, which is everything that all of us different artists are outputting. You know, if we're doing just modeling or just look dev, it's a still. If we're doing, you know, principal animation, maybe it's a GIF or a movie file, a play blast render, or maybe like a low res render from the farm or whatever, you know, is going out to the client. And okay, this is shot 14 version 6, and this went out on June 28th or whatever, right? So June 29th comes around, oh, clients got feedback on shot whatever, and I'll get that page of notes. You know, sometimes as the freelancer on site, you're open to interpreting that on your own. You know, I could look at a page of client notes, and because I haven't been in the room on some of these conversations, I might interpret that page of notes a little bit differently than the staffers would. That's just the nature of, you know, because you're removed from this equation partially, you're going to have a different outlook on it. And so you kind of need to have that in mind, and then loop back around with or to one of the staffers and say like, is this fourth bullet point, like, is that really what they want? And then you have, you know, you open up another conversation and you know, with whoever's on staff, and, you know, maybe they can clarify or bring in feedback for you and say like, oh, you know, maybe that one's the lowest priority on the revisions for this shot. So get to everything else. And then if you can sneak that one in, you know, EOD, then, you know, cool, get to it. So
and that makes sense more in an environment where there's a lot of artists working. You know, that I completely understand that. But what happens to us on occasion, like we have a lot of clients that they understand how the contract world works, right? Like they're going to come to us and they're like, I need this thing done for this amount of money. Can you do it? You say yes for this amount of money. And then you just deliver that product. It does not really matter how many hours you spent in reality, you know, because you agree on a set price. They're not sitting there watching you log hours or whatever. It's like, if you want this product, you pay me this much. You know, we don't have to nitpick all these little things, but I have seen, you know, we've had some, especially when they're new or they're like a local production company that doesn't have a lot of graphic artists, or they're just like an all After Effects house, and they need this one Cinema 4D thing done because they don't do a lot of Cinema 4D. They'll be like, well, I need you to come here and work on it. And it's like, well, why do you need me there? We don't, you know, we have a render farm. We've got all these plugins and all this other stuff, and we could get the job done faster remotely because everything's good to go. You want me to go work on your computer? Okay, what do I have to do? I have to go up there, then find out that you don't have Cinema 4D installed and sit there on the clock while you install it.
Or find out that you have R16 or R15 or something like that. Yeah,
something's not compatible. But then they want you to do it there for no reason other than they just want a warm body in the chair to make sure that you're logging the hours correctly. It's like, dude, are you really going to nitpick if I spent 7 hours instead of 8 hours on this today, according to what I sent you? Just think of it as, yeah, that makes total sense. I've found that typically,
out quite a bit,
are that are like Take Two.
Yeah,
Take Two.
No, I found that typically the artists, the people that come to the table, the clients that kind of nitpick over that stuff, are generally not good clients to have in the first place, because they're going to get really weird about how much money something is costing. That's not a word. How much money something costs, and it's a very, very, very minute difference between what you were going to do on site or off site. In fact, I think you could honestly get stuff done better and faster and better quality just by doing it, at your office or home, your private office rather than their place, because it's just not comfortable, even down to the little details like, oh, well, I don't have this one little piece of software on my desktop that makes this easier for dragging and dropping this thing. Or, it's like the other day I was somewhere and I had to make an MP3 file of something just real quick. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this on this computer right now, because usually I drop it in this little applet that I have and we're good to go. And I don't have that applet and I don't remember where I got that. I have to check my email. And so it becomes detrimental to some of these clients sometimes for you to do stuff like that. I don't think they realize it. But again, that's in the smaller environments. I think what the type of stuff you're doing is they're used to that mentality. They're used to having people come in and out, having things set up. And so I guess my question is on that, how do you deal with going into a place and sitting down at a different computer, sitting down with different environment? Are you bringing stuff with you? Are you loading things of your own and then uninstalling them when you're done? How do you bring your own gear? What is your process in that?
Yeah, I mean, so there's quite a bit to unpack there. But I think you touched on a lot of things. It's like, if it does make sense for you as the artist to, work from home more efficiently, the client's going to get a better end result or whatever. I feel like you should, as the artist, at least pitch that. If they say no, then they say no. Don't fight them on it. But if it's an internal thing, maybe there's not going to be as much leeway. But if it's an agency and they're working or they're appealing to a larger client, then maybe you've got a little bit more leverage in saying like, okay, I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z faster because I already have plugin 1, 2, 3 at home, and you don't need to buy another license for it because I'm just going to be rolling like a small amount into my day rate. Let's just say my day rate's $600 or whatever, but like I'm going to need to go buy 2 licenses of Arnold or whatever. Maybe I'm going to bump my day rate up $50 a day or whatever, and that will cost, over the lifespan of that booking, that will, address that cost.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like one example. But like, I do kind of have, I have a backpack, I've got like a pretty decent Razer Blade laptop, which, it's got a version of Cinema on it. It's got, my Creative Cloud on it. I've got a duplicate mouse. I've got, a little like kind of mouse pad thing, which is just like my preference. I don't like having a mouse and a keyboard like just straight up on the desk. So like I've got, my little things. I've got an extra pair of headphones. I've got like my MoGraph Go bag.
Yeah.
For lack of a better
Your
term.
Mo bag.
Yeah, my Mo bag. Yeah. So that, it's got like a notebook. It's got a couple pens in it. It might have like, a battery pack or an extra USB-C cable for my phone because like I'm on Android or whatever. Everyone has an iPhone cord. Nobody has a USB-C cord.
Right.
Yeah. They're
so
hard to find.
They are. One day, who knows? Maybe it'll get better. But yeah, you just kind of prepare yourself as much as you can and have that stuff with you. If they have a workstation, awesome. If the workstation sucks, then not awesome. It's very rare for me to go into a place and to experience pushback on like me using my laptop that has all of my own stuff on it versus like using their workstation or whatever. And maybe if there's like a server issue and say like, oh, we've got SMB set up on this thing and this is how our file structure works and blah, 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 we can't patch you in, then okay, whatever. Maybe you just concede that. But if my laptop's better than whatever station they've got me or got allocated to me, then I'll use my laptop. If the station is sufficient for what I need to do, then I'll hop on that and, set up my preferences folder for Cinema. I'm really big on like certain hotkeys and little scripts that will like change your layout and, kind of the stuff that I did in that tutorial a couple of weeks back. But like, just keeping like a running list in your mind of like, okay, these are the sort of things that I need I need with me to get a job, from or a station from baseline, nothing on it, to at least passable. In my case, it's never going to be perfect. In somebody's office that you're going to be in for 6 days or whatever. You're just never going to get a one-to-one. So kind of just becoming familiar with working with whatever you've got. Mm-hmm. If the job calls for a specific plugin, like whatever Forester, whatever, we need to make some trees or whatever. Like, I've got my 2 machines here at my house. I can remote into either one of them. I can load up a project file, generate an asset or whatever, then transfer that over to myself on Dropbox, and then transfer it over to their server, whatever the case may be, just like knowing what you can and can't do, like with the software, things like using TeamViewer or Chrome Remote Desktop to be able to access your machines remotely. That's like super huge. I wouldn't be able to be nearly as efficient as I am if it wasn't for, operating 3 computers from one, which is all doable with something like Chrome Remote Desktop. If you can sign into Gmail on a computer, then you can access that. Like when we were at NAB and we were staying at the Airbnb, I was rendering a shot here at home, and I was checking on the progress of that render from my phone if we were at the show, or from my laptop if we were back at the house from Vegas. Like, it's 2,000 miles away or whatever, and it's like I can still poke around. At one point, a render did crash, and I was like, oh no, how long ago did this crash? Like, has it been all day? Oh, it was like 3 hours I lost or whatever. But like, you have the tools at your disposal to make this stuff work. Setting up a new system with, some plugins and stuff, it sucks, and you kind of have to account for it on the first day. But when you're coming into, at least in my experience, coming into a studio, freelancing, let's say for a week or a month at a time or whatever, the first day is like almost a wash.
Yeah.
It always
agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys both just agreed. Even at home, you got to get up to speed. It's like, okay, are we going to do boards for this? Or are we just going to jump right into production? What's the schedule? How much, there's still so many questions that you're answering on day one that there's plenty of idle time in that you can roll in and, I got to set up a couple hotkeys on this computer. I'm going to, go, where's the printer? I need to print off a thing so I can like scribble on this, this client's page of notes or whatever. Cause at least for me, like I like having a page of notes physically, if I'm working on a shot or whatever, like I want to physically cross stuff off the list for whatever reason, like mentally I like that. So like, where's the printer? Where's the bathroom? What, like all this.
Where's the coffee?
Right. Yeah, exactly. All this stuff that is happening on day one, you can just sneak in, I need to update the content browser because whatever, this thing doesn't have like whatever is updated on it. There's plenty of downtime on that first day. So I don't find it as a hindrance. And if it does become a hindrance, maybe that freelance computer, maybe some other staffer's machine, dies or whatever, they've got to go take it to Apple Care, and then you get shuffled around and you play musical workstations, which totally happens, on site, especially with larger teams, then that's what the laptop's for.
Yeah. Yeah. I always bring mine with me.
That's one of my,
to work somewhere.
My big thing is like, we've had that happen a lot. And I think it's a lot of these places, it's because we're like the only 3D people coming in. I think some of the other places it wouldn't be as big of a deal, but it's like you show up sometimes and it's like, oh, you were coming in today? Okay, well, let me go get Bob because he was supposed to set up that workstation and he hasn't done it yet. And you're like, really? And you're like sitting there, and then it's like, noon, and it's like, well, I'm gonna go to lunch,
sit around.
It's happened more times than I would like. I mean, it's not like, getting paid for it. It's like, okay, cool, but like at the same time, you feel like you're wasting your time. It's like if I were at home and I were working on this project, I would be emailing them, asking them questions, and waiting for them to get back to me and doing other things, not just sitting here and it's kind of like a double use of your time in those situations. You try and multitask, you try and answer emails and all that other kind of stuff. And with a place like that, it's like you got to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Because you almost want to say, dude, you're paying me right now. Why aren't you ready for this? Do you want me to come back later? But you also don't want to be a jerk. But that's the situation that I feel like a lot of times I run into doing on-site work. That's why every time I hear, oh, you got to come on site, I'm like, oh, okay. And we actually talked about possibly charging more for on-site work because we are having to give up our entire day. You can't sit there
you're talking
and
about
multitask.
Like the 2 hours worth of driving in a day.
Right.
You're losing out on that, which is time that you could be working,
Right. So
it's I see Liam in the chat, he's saying his first year of freelancing, he said that happened a lot. You'll come in, sometimes you'll catch people off guard. If the place is big enough, there might be completely separate production teams that have a producer dedicated to these 3 artists, and then there's a producer dedicated to this editor, this colorist, and this whatever. They're completely different operating teams, and you might run into the wrong person at the agency, and they're just like, "Who are you? Your name is Joe. We were expecting a Jim," and whatever. You just kind of roll with the punches. Because all of my work is on site. It's just. It just happens. You kind of expect that junk the first day, and I think you can make an argument about charging more for at home or on site. I mean, like with anything, you can rationalize it however you want. But like, if I'm on site, you can say, oh well, I need to account for this commuting time. If I'm at home, I need to account for the fact that I've bought all my own, however many thousands of dollars of whatever.
I can see that.
And your electricity,
and then I guess the nice thing is you can use that ammunition however you see fit.
Yeah.
If you want to charge everyone more on both sides of the equation, if as long as one client doesn't communicate to the other one, then how are they going to know?
Oh, you want me to work at your office? That's going to be more. You want me to work from home? That's going to be a little bit more.
That's a $50 upcharge, man.
That's a paddling.
That's a paddling.
That's paddling.
Oh, that's funny.
Rendering on Team Viewer. Oh, you better believe that's a paddling. All right, let's talk about hardware. Are you building your own hardware? Are you buying stuff off the shelf? What are you doing?
Well, I'm like a DIY computer kid. I put myself through my first couple semesters in college, based off of a computer that I kind of built on my own. It was like I had $700 to build my first computer or whatever, and it was like I need to render things on this, and I went on Reddit, the Build a PC subreddit.
That's a good one.
It's a good one, but I love that subreddit because like I used to help moderate like their IRC, before Slack was a thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of holds like a fond place in my heart. From like 2011 to 2013, I was like really, really into being engaged in that community. But like, man, you don't want gamers dictating, your hardware for what we do because I forget exactly who said it in the Slack, but it was a really funny one-liner they had. It was the difference between frames per second and seconds per frame.
Yeah,
and I thought that was a really good line, and it's totally spot on because like if you ask like the gamer, they're gonna say put 50% of your machine into video cards, and it's like, I mean, for Octane maybe that's not the worst idea, but like you still need a specific amount of RAM. If you're doing Adobe stuff, it's like, okay, I want one SSD that has my programs and my operating system on it. I want a separate SSD or M.2 SSD for cache. There's so many variables that you can bring into play, and I guess that's what I like most about building computers myself and being savvy enough to do it for others, and charging a little bit of a fee for it is having that flexibility and say like, oh, okay, this box is only going to be ever used for After Effects. We don't need to go heavy on GPU because a $175, $200 video card is say like a GTX 960 you know, completely mid-range card is going to be more than enough for anything Adobe's ever going to utilize from now until, you know, the world ends.
I mean, RAM preview is never going to work. So
I mean, yeah, no, that's kind of out the window. So
so it's about SPF instead of FPS.
Seconds per frame. I like that. Yeah. SPF.
SPF. Yeah.
SPF.
yes.
I've got a question for you, and I thought I might bring this up because I figure you knew a little bit about at least temperatures and overclocking, underclocking. I am very nervous when it comes to overclocking. Do you do any of that, or?
Extensively, yes. I overclock. Yeah. I push my hardware almost as hard as I can, and it's mostly because that's just free performance. You know, if I could almost guarantee that you can squeeze out an extra 15% out of both your GPUs and your CPU, provided you have adequate cooling. And that's something that I always keep in mind. You know, if I'm approaching building a computer for somebody, I'm going to be asking plenty of questions up front. It's like, I mean, even little stuff of like, is this going to be like on the desk or under the desk next to you? Is this going to be like stuffed away in a closet somewhere? And then you're running like all the cables out, you know, because, you know, every place is going to run differently, and everyone's house is going to be set up in a unique way. And so provided the questions are, the answers to those questions are positive, I would encourage overclocking. And it's pretty straightforward on the GPUs. There's a program that you can use. There's a handful, but the two biggest ones are EVGA Precision X.
That's what I use.
That's the one I use. Yeah.
Yep. The alternative to that is MSI Afterburner.
Yeah.
And these are, you know, pretty straightforward programs. You know, if you Google or YouTube search, you know, how to use one of these programs, you can find a pretty straightforward walkthrough on how to overclock your video card. And the nice thing is you're going to get a bit more heat and a bit more, you know, fan noise and whatever, but you're getting a pretty substantial amount of performance that you paid for it. If you bought the fancy, you know, liquid cooler, whatever for your CPU, or, you know, you've got, you know, a bunch of awesome fans in your case and it's got super sweet airflow, there's nothing stopping you from overclocking this stuff. And by and large, the hardware isn't going to hurt itself. You know, there's a thing on CPUs called TJ Max, and that's like the absolute hottest the processor will get before it like turns itself off. And for Intel CPUs, it's like, you know, 100 or 105 degrees Celsius. So people are like, oh man, my CPU never goes above 70 degrees when I'm rendering. That's telling me that you've got a couple percentage points of overhead, because you could be pushing that thing into the 80s all day long, 24/7, and you're never even going to dent the lifespan of that chip. It might die in 6.5 years versus 7 years,
right?
If you push a little bit more voltage into it. But, you know, over that time slot, if you're going to get 13% faster on every render, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. You have to be a little bit careful with the video card stuff, because just inherently, because of the nature of like how Windows works and how Windows communicates with the DirectX or OpenGL like driver, you know, how the CPU and the GPU are communicating basically. It's always going to be a little bit more prone to errors, you know, crashes, freezes, whatever. But the video cards themselves, like, they can be pushed, you know, every NVIDIA card is going to start self-throttling somewhere in the 80, 83, 85 degrees Celsius mark.
Right.
And as long as it's not going above that, just keep cranking those sliders in your overclocking program. That's what I say. Until it starts crashing. You know, if you open up Octane and you hit render and it crashed on a project that, you know, the day prior when you didn't overclock, if that was stable and now it's not stable, okay, you know, maybe dial that slider back or look into a little bit more advanced of a tutorial. Maybe you need to adjust like the voltage or, you know, a fan profile, whatever. That information's all out there on the web, you know, and it's just, I mean, it's free performance, you know.
That's why I was kind of turned off by it for a while, because I got that software all loaded up and I just made a very small tweak just to see if I could overclock a little bit. And then all of a sudden, like, everything in Octane was crashing and nothing was working. And I was like, man, all I did was barely touch this thing and it failed. And so I don't know, maybe it was just a fluke, but I was like, maybe I should just kind of leave this where it is right now and just be okay with that.
And there's totally something to be said about just having like a 24/7 always on, maybe a render node or your media server. It's like you're not going to overclock everything, because it doesn't make sense to. But if you can put a day into it, maybe like a weekend day or whatever, if plans with family or whatever cancels one day and you find yourself with 6 hours, like put that time in, because those dividends are going to pay off on, it might not sound like much, but 8% faster. Think about if Octane was 8% faster on everything you ever hit render on.
Yeah,
it'd be like going from Octane, let's just say like 3.06 to 3.08 or whatever.
Yeah.
If they made like some enhancement to the algorithm, you've got that sitting inside of your machine at all times if you're running at stock.
Think how many lives you'd save over time.
You think of the Kubernetes.
Right.
You got to set the Kubernetes free.
Will someone please think of the Kubernetes?
Yeah, exactly.
Akira's in the chat and says she keeps her GPUs at 60 on air. How is that even possible? Jeez.
Living at the top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, more power to you, but I see that as performance is on the table. Crank those voltages.
Yeah.
And see, like mine right now, keep in mind I have a laptop that I'm running on at the moment, but my 1060 is running at 67, which isn't bad considering everything it's doing with Skype and broadcasting and encoding and all of that stuff. Now, I'm sure that that's going to get hotter when it's utilizing all of the GPU power to do an Octane render or something. But my biggest concern, and I'm trying to do a little research and figure this out, is my CPU temperature, I feel like, is too high. I'm looking right now, and my hottest core is running at 91 Celsius.
Well, it's a laptop. Laptops are a completely different beast.
They are hotter, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just
by nature.
Right. It's just a matter of, electricity and what we do on computers that draws power and thus generates heat, because electricity is just heat. It's getting rid of that heat is purely a surface area, math problem, physics problem, whatever. If you look at the big honking, double stacked air cooler or whatever in your CPU, like Matt's got in the background over there with the brown and tan fan.
That's two of them.
Yeah, exactly. Like that thing.
Then I got my fan right here.
Right. Yeah. that fan is more. That one fan is more than like the whole laptop can manage by itself. So I would never advocate overclocking on a laptop, because they have problems as is. They're already throttling. They're basically struggling to keep themselves alive at all points in time as is. I mean, like iMacs are kind of the same thing, because an iMac is basically a laptop reshelled into a monitor. And so, the laptops, I disregard everything I said about overclocking. if you're not on a desktop, full blown with fans and all that cool stuff.
Well, my actual thought is I've been looking at these articles on Razer on how to underclock your CPU just a bit. And I'm really considering giving that a try, because we were sitting here the other day. I wasn't even doing anything except Skyping with Matt, and I opened like 2 web windows and the computer just shut down. Just gone. All the screens went off, and I'm like, what just happened? It wasn't a blue screen. It wasn't an error. It was none of that. It was just off. And that's kind of unnerving a little bit, because you're like, did my computer just fry? Please boot back up. And so I look at it and I look at the failure, and then I start looking at temperatures on the CPU, because I was feeling it like over where the power button is right under the screen. It was almost too hot to touch. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything crazy on here. And so I start looking at temperatures, and the GPU is actually okay, but I'm getting a little bit nervous if I'm running at 200 degrees Fahrenheit on a CPU. Is that really good? Even for a laptop, is that good for it? And I feel like maybe I need to bring that back a little. Because since I'm using mostly GPU, then I shouldn't see that much of an issue. Maybe like in After Effects, I might see a little bit of performance issue, but I would rather have a working computer that lasted longer than, have something just fry because I'm not paying attention to my temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, laptops are kind of their own. You have to treat them as their own thing, their own category. My Razer laptop, if I set that thing to render and it's got to work, if it's got to work its butt off for 30 minutes, like I don't even want to be in the same room as it. Those fans are so loud on the thing, and you don't forget typing on it. Your fingers are going to be sweating so much. Those keys get so hot.
Don't actually put it on your lap as a laptop. You'll regret that. Yeah, no. I actually will take like a book or something if I'm doing, even if I'm doing VR, especially. I will take a book and I will prop it behind the laptop so that the laptop is kind of at a diagonal angle, so that it's getting more airflow out the bottom, and it seems to actually help a lot.
Yeah, when I'm on site and I'm running off just my laptop, I'll stuff my wallet in that same spot where you can get the back of it to kind of sit up a little bit.
But you're not covering the fans or anything.
Yeah, in lieu of like having one of those nice like aluminum like MacBook stands.
Yeah.
Because like that's
fancy
not something.
Things.
I that's one thing that's not in my Mo bag. Is a stand for the laptop, but I've found kind of wedging my key fob, for my car key, and then my wallet kind of like gets enough airflow to at least make sure it doesn't turn completely into molten lava by the time the render's done.
Well, I've got a question from somebody on Slack. I think this is actually from like last week, but I didn't get to it in my notes. And this is from Mr. Elsewhere's Lab. I'm not sure who that is. I think this is a relatively new person in the Slack. So I got to vent and seek some advice. I work at a huge media organization doing science and medical animations, mostly Cinema 4D, Octane stuff. I was brought in on a grant, and for a year, while they were negotiating the extension of said contract, I was busy as F. Fast forward to today, grant extended, and no longer a quota for the reporters to use animations and stories. I've been sitting at my desk for about a month without something specific to work on, and the weirdest thing is everyone seems happy with this arrangement. Brought up to my editor several times that I'm bored out of my mind, and no real solution in sight. I'm starting to lose my... I'm trying not to curse on the show.
My crap.
My crap. Spending hours playing with X particles and praying for breaking news in genetics. Any thoughts? Should I quit? So effed up. The only reason I took this job was for the output they said they needed and maybe to try and win some awards, but now I'm just frustrated. Man.
I've been in this situation. I worked for 9 months at a company where we would do like the work that we were doing. It was when we were working for Samsung. I can mention the company because they're not even around anymore.
Yeah, they went under.
Yeah, the Note 7 fiasco with all the exploding
airplanes
phones
and the batteries.
Yeah. Like that completely sank this company because their main client was Samsung.
Yeah.
So I was working for them, and literally, so anytime a new device would come out, so once every 6 months, we would be balls to the wall, like working 18-hour days, for 2-3 weeks straight, and then we'd have nothing to do for 6 months. Like we'd get an occasional video here or there, but I literally forgot that I got paid to do MoGraph. I thought that I got paid to check my stocks and surf Reddit all day. Totally forgot. I'd come in every day and I wouldn't have anything to do, and it was great for a short amount of time. But eventually, like you feel like you start to stagnate, and like you could have spent that time doing tutorials, but then also you get to this point where you're like, okay, I want to do some tutorials. I'm going to do some tutorials today. Let me check Reddit. And then you get into the cycle, and you didn't do a single tutorial that day, like eventually I had to leave that company because I was able to knock out one of their videos. Like they'd charge $18,000 for a 1-minute video, and I was able to knock it out in probably 4 to 5 hours because they didn't do anything creative, and it was cookie cutter, basically
animating PowerPoint.
Yeah, basically glorified
Yeah.
PowerPoint. So I was able to do that super quick. And eventually I just got to the point where it's like, okay, they won't let me be creative. I can't use any cinema stuff because they don't, it's got to be approved by Samsung in the first place. I would love to get 3D models, but they won't do it. Yeah. So you know what? I'm just going to leave. I ended up leaving because of it. Yeah.
Well, Houdini Mark, which by the way, I hung out with Houdini Mark last night.
Oh yeah? How's he doing?
Pretty good. No, we had a good time. We talked about Houdini, of course, a lot, and he said this is literally how I learned Houdini. So it's
through a job that like he didn't have anything to do.
Yeah, he said whatever it is you do to fill the time learning new stuff. It always looks great for your higher ups because you're taking an initiative. So your downtime by investing in your own future and adding value to what you have to offer to the company and what the company has to offer their clients. But yeah, gosh, take the opportunity to just. I would learn Houdini. That's the first thing I would do.
Yeah, I agree.
Liam says, pics or it didn't happen from last night. We didn't take a picture. We should have taken a picture and we didn't. Yeah, I mean, learn, as Matt Rittman said in there too, take advantage of the time, learn making it look grade 11, do modeling tutorials, anything. Like that's such a great opportunity. You're getting paid to learn and you have to make it not boring for yourself. It's up to you to do that. If you want to leave, it's understandable. If you're just dying to start working on some projects, that's completely understandable why you feel that way. But if it's paying the bills right now and maybe you want to leave, take the opportunity to increase your knowledge, get better at something, and then get a better job doing that thing. Because you may get to a point in the next few years, 5 to 10 years, where you're like, I don't have time to learn a new piece of software. There's no way. That's like me right now. I can't learn Houdini right now. I got too much going on, And then you're like, man, I only wish that 5 years ago when I had all that time, I would have learned Houdini.
Only I had a job that paid me to do nothing. Then I could learn Houdini.
Yeah. So take the opportunity. Do you want to do some links? If the answer is no, then too bad. We're going to do some links anyway.
That's fine.
Day World. Have you seen? Is that
Master of the Night World?
Did you see Day World on Adult Swim? This is weird. I'm trying to figure out what render engine it's done in. It's just creepy baby dude. Have you seen this? Neither of you? No?
What?
No?
Is this the thing who's looking? Oh no, I haven't seen this.
It looks like a baby with a man's face.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what the link is. If I can give an.
Sorry, I got to watch an ad first before I can watch this.
I'm scrolling through the Skype and I don't know if I'm clicking on the thumbnail or the link.
Okay. Apparently, infomercials is a thing on Adult Swim. They call it infomercials, but it's like little shorts and things like that. I want to say there was another one that was on last night that I need to check out because my friend that I went to high school with, he runs that late night As Seen on Adult Swim thing, Nick Gibbons. And he worked on Too Many Cooks back in the day with some other friends, kind of how he got into Adult Swim, I think.
That Day World intro was very cool.
So there's this whole day, these little shorts, and this Day World thing is so creepy. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like,
is this what was it? shitty renders or whatever. It's on Reddit all the time. It was these really weird, terrible renders and stuff, but they were like done really well.
Well, I know what you're talking about, but I mean I don't know who created this one in particular, but I'm trying to look and see my friend Nick if this came out. He was talking about because he did Too Many Cooks with this guy, and then he's been on the show, and then he said something else was supposed to come out like last night at like 4 in. So I'm looking for that too. It looks like this might be it.
This is like this is like 12 minutes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now this isn't the one he did, but this is like what they do on their infomercials slot. And I guess he worked on this other one, I think, that just came out called Final Deployment 4 Queen Battle Walkthrough. And it's on infomercials on Adult Swim. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes as well. I haven't had even a chance to watch it, but if they worked on Too Many Cooks, then it's going to be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually his daughter in the high chair in Too Many Cooks. So.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. A cheat sheet for social media video aspect ratios. It's funny. You notice PremiumBeat.com does all of these blog posts, and
yeah, they've been doing a lot of blog posts lately.
At first, I was like, "Oh, you're trying to just get more hits to your site and all that," which they are. Obviously, everybody wants more hits to their site, but they've actually been posting some pretty decent articles. Like this one is called a cheat sheet for social media video aspect ratios, because what happens when you do a video now, it just doesn't go to, television. It doesn't go to just YouTube. It ends up on all these different platforms, and more we get clients who are like, well, whatever you do, you got to make sure that we can fit this portion of it inside an Instagram ratio, because we don't want to have to render it twice. And
yeah, Instagram story requires 9 by 16. That's so weird.
Yeah, because the stories are only viewable vertically.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose if you really wanted to, you could try to put it sideways and pray that people turn their phone sideways, but
see, Instagram has taken up what I've been saying this whole time. I like, so many people have like, oh, don't turn your, you got to turn it on its side. Don't do it vertically. I am all about vertical video. Because where do I watch most of my video? On my phone vertically. If I want to watch any of my old stuff, I'll watch it on my phone, and I'll watch it vertically.
I think that's what the new IGTV thing is. I just know it's a new button in my Instagram app. I haven't clicked it, but I occasionally the algorithm is feeding me notifications, trying to coax me into clicking on it. But I think it's like, I've seen some MoGraphy people post tutorials but it's in 9 by 16. How
weird. I don't know. See, like, I don't think if you're gonna do that, like, I'm no, like, I'm okay with like seeing pictures or like, funny little videos or whatever. If I'm doing something serious, like I shot my brother-in-law's wedding on my phone the other day. I was not the videographer. I just so happened to be there, and I was shooting it, but I did shoot it horizontally. The correct
you're going to
way.
want to do that because people are going to play it on their TVs. And,
right.
I don't know.
But if I'm taking video of my kid doing something funny and I want to send it to all my family members, I'm not going to do it horizontally. I'm going to do it vertically.
There's two kinds of people in this world. There's horizontal video shooters, and then there's awful people.
All right, whatever.
No, I don't agree with it at all.
It's all about the viewer. Instagram's 4:3 anyway, or one to one.
Well, see,
right?
That's the other thing. It's like Instagram. I feel like they're taking us backwards. They're making everything back to like SD aspect ratios, and like what year is this?
When have you ever watched an Instagram video on your TV?
Oh, I didn't say I had, but
I know. I mean,
But tell me how that makes sense on my phone. Tell me how that makes sense on my phone this way. Or this way,
because
it doesn't make sense.
You can see
either
it
way.
this way. You can see it this way, and then you can scroll through your feed. What I'm saying is you're like them old people in like you know, you go to an office and you got the old fogies who don't want to like upgrade all their stuff because they're like, oh no, this is the way we always did it. Brr, brr, brr. Just because, you know, you've got TV and it's horizontal, you know, doesn't mean everyone's going to be viewing it on a TV horizontally.
Back in my day,
1 point,
we had
Bill said, I win.
we had 240p and we liked it.
Right.
240i. Don't sleep on interlacing.
Oh, 240p on YouTube.
Oh, right.
480i, you know, on television, and then you had you had more. You had like 525 in the UK. It's like, ooh, 525. Some people would actually shoot stuff in 525 because they get better resolution, and then they'd convert it when they were done. But yeah, why the square? Why? Just so you can see it in your feed, just so you can see the info on the bottom? Is that why?
I mean, you can post non-square things to Instagram. When you're making a new post, I don't want to walk through it.
Yeah, I know you can.
It's going to be awful dead air, but like there is a little button for if something is not square, you can hit that button and it will resize to be either vertical or horizontal. And I use that a lot.
If you just double click on the picture, it will zoom out to the whole thing when you're posting.
Kira on the chat said, human eyes are horizontal, but human hands are vertical. This is the eternal struggle.
I agree with that.
I think that's hilarious.
What about, I don't know. Okay, here's what I think. I will be good with vertical video once televisions are all mounted that way.
No.
Well,
just get a bigger TV.
But I hate watching stuff like that. It's like
watching vertical video on like a like 19-inch TV. Yeah, that would be painful. Watching a vertical video on a 65-inch TV, which most people have anyway. They're so dirt cheap, you know. It's not that rough.
I think part of the problem too is that people take those videos and then embed them into horizontal videos, so then they're even smaller. Yes. You know, and then they put the side stuff, and it's like so little, and you're like, why couldn't you just record this sideways in the first place? You know, those people that are like,
okay, I'll tell you why. Because, and this is the number one reason why I do vertical video, because if I'm really close to my kid or within like a few feet, I can't get head to toe of him acting goofy, right? Like horizontally. Vertically, yes, absolutely I can. Because if you look at the difference on the phone, and this is something I wish Apple would let you do, if you look at the difference between photo and video, photo gives you so much more stuff than video. Video zooms it in quite a bit, and it's like, okay,
it has to do with the chip.
Yeah, but still, it's like, you know what? Just downgrade that to whatever my video is and let me keep that full frame.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just saying, that's one thing that's always bugged me, and that's the whole reason I use vertical video.
It's like all those people on the internet that or post their stuff on the internet from, you know, a fight that happened on the street or something, right. You know, World Star Hip Hop, and then they heard the thing, but then it goes to all this. Yeah. You know, and put the little blurred crap on the side.
Yeah, well, anyone who's like taking it and putting it up, it doesn't matter. It's all about where you view it. And that's my opinion. It's all about where you view it. And if 90% of the stuff I'm going to watch is on my phone, I'm going to watch it vertically.
Kira has a good point. Vertical videos will go away when handheld devices go away, which means when AR takes over, we're going to go back to
No. When AR takes over, you're not going to have specific stuff. It's all going to be whatever shape they want to put it in.
It's going to have a template for everything.
There won't be a template.
It won't be a template. It'll be just create something. This is the resolution that I want it to be. You know, this is the space that I want it to fill. You know,
but you know what's going to happen is there's going to be like standard empty places that people put in, like in a restaurant, for example. You go to a restaurant, they won't have TV anymore, but they will have like a thing on the wall where you could just like throw your own video inside your AR glasses. What size is that going to be? Maybe it'll be circle.
No,
maybe we'll get some pentagons and stars in there.
Well, maybe, but I think it will be 16 by 9 because I. Anyway. Never mind. If you're watching video like that, if you're going to watch a movie or something like that, it will always be 16:9 or 21:9 aspect ratio. If you're watching it somewhere else or something, it's all about where you're watching it.
Anyway,
agree to disagree. I don't think either one of us is going to agree.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will. That'll be something great to have on the next future show.
Right.
I can't believe all video is 44 by 1.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
Anyway,
all right.
Let's go to some other links. The TEDx Sydney 2018 titles, Humankind. This is Rich Nosworthy's new joint.
Ooh.
Have you seen this?
And a handful of others. Scott Grierson, Jeff Bryant. Yeah. Super cool team. I know some of those guys from the MDA Slack. Mm-hmm. I mean, not like know them, but like, I've interacted with them and Rich and it's super awesome team, super cool thing. Without getting political, I liked how overt the messaging was because it is, it's taking a stand. I felt as a viewer, and I appreciated that as somebody watching and taking in this bit of art, visually. I liked it. Was refreshing. It wasn't just a bunch of greebly gook.
Right.
Oh, you mean like naked robot people covered in goo? That's like the new thing.
Yeah, emissive materials covered in like Topo wire, like cords all over.
Robot people like in the
these
what do you
marble
call it?
Textures are gorgeous.
Oh yeah, they are. They're great.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on the Monday meeting thing in the Brograph Slack this morning.
Mm-hmm. Is there a breakdown of this yet? Because I haven't seen it.
I know I think on Rich Nosworthy's site, I think he's doing a little bit more in depth. At least he's that kind of artist who will do deep dives on stuff. So I would keep an eye out on his site or his social feed. But we had this discussion in the Monday meeting call thing of how much of that is stuff like Megascans or Polygon, just like off the shelf textures, versus like handmade, like a hero specific one-off, like Substance Painter or Substance Designer. I would be interested in knowing like what that ratio is, because I know it can't be all of one or all of the other. It's got to be some sort of blend. But I would.
That comes back to our discussion from earlier about using your resources that you have available. It's like it's not like they went and made all of those textures from scratch.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's no budget, there's no timeline that would ever accommodate that long of a piece having wholly one-off resources being touched to it, unless it had like a feature film budget, but it obviously can't. So that was a cool talking point. Just and then even going past that is like, what does it matter? Like if let's say it was all off the shelf Megascans textures, does that take anything away from it?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so either.
Like the story.
It as stupid as it sounds, art is art. It's design is design. It doesn't matter what assets you're going to use.
Do you ask a painter if he created the paint from scratch out of mud and colors from nature? No.
Right. Yeah. Did you make your own pigment paint, or did you buy what brand of paint? It doesn't. Yeah. No. You're totally right. It doesn't matter. But I think in something that is like that high profile, it's fun to postulate. At least a little bit. And at least if anything, it kind of opens up, or it could open up your experience, and to say, if you don't know about Megascans or Polygon, which are these online texture database resources where you can pay like a couple $20-30 a month, and you've got almost unlimited access to every sort of surface you can think of. You can type in marble and get 40 different variations of marble. If you want, these are super cool resources. And
then see what I do with some of the Polygon stuff is I'll download it if it looks close enough, and then I'll just like color correct it and adjust it myself. It's nice.
At least a good starting point.
Yeah. If you're doing a thing and they want a green alligator skin bag, I doubt you're going to find the right bright lime green alligator skin texture, but you can always download that thing off Polygon and then, pipe like the diffuse color or whatever through, a node, or even just do it by hand in Photoshop, like a solid color adjustment layer or blending mode, whatever.
Yeah, we were actually, when we did the, not Don Julio, the De Leon bottles for Diageo, we were going to put like kind of a leather texture on this surface that they were on. And the first thing I did was went into the Octane texture database, and I downloaded that alien skin, because it's kind of it's got that look, and I just went in and completely made it black and took all the veins and everything out of it, and that was the starting point, because leather is made out of skin anyway.
Oh,
so
that's
I'm
funny.
sure,
Yeah.
it probably was leather to begin with whenever they scanned the original texture. Couple other links real quick before we get to, I want to get to People's People and Brograph Recommends, and Matt, you and I have another conference call coming up.
Yeah, in like an hour and a half.
Yeah. So we gotta get this done, get the show posted, and get on to the next conference call, Bingo.
Super important. You can't neglect Bingo.
Right.
We can't miss our Bingo date, Matt. Adobe has introduced Project Rush. It's a new way to create and share online video. Matt, this was a link from you.
Okay, so from the way I saw it, they're talking about like basically combining Premiere, After Effects, and Adobe Media Encoder or something all into one app that
and
you
all
can
on
use.
multi-platform.
Yeah, multi-platform, either iPhone, Android, or your PC or Mac.
I was actually an original beta tester on this.
Were you?
Years ago.
So
like
it's concerning in a way. Like, I don't know. I can see what Adobe's trying to do, right? That they're like trying to create something that new users can use pretty easily, or iPhone users or whatever.
You don't think they really want to replace
me.
Premiere?
You would think Apple wouldn't want to replace Final Cut Pro, but they did with, and so that just worries me that like they're just creating an iMovie-esque type, program that, that people are going to be like, well, I created this movie in Project Rush, can you edit this for me?
The
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I did this on my iPhone. Yeah. I don't know that they're going to try and replace it like that. With Apple, it's like Apple realized that their audience is people who buy iPhones, and people who want to edit are usually consumers and not pros. But Adobe, I doubt looks at it the same way. As far as what they think of their customers, they know that they're hardcore editors, designers, and all that. I know that they're not going to try and get rid of it. Maybe it will be kind of a plug-in type thing for Premiere or something to that effect, because it makes sense. But
it was Premiere, After Effects, and Audition is what they were trying to do. And Dan Marino on the chat says it's for vloggers and YouTubers.
I get that.
I can get that, but then you still got people who are going to use it for, I don't know, editing grandma's 80th wedding video. I don't know why she would be married 80 times. I was trying to say 80th birthday.
Oh my gosh, she's gotten married every year.
Every year on the year. Who'd have thunk it?
Sometimes twice.
Yeah, had to.
I mean,
oh man.
In concept, I like it. It's an NLE on your phone. I can't think of anything. I certainly haven't researched that, if that's a space or not. Like an NLE on phones. To my knowledge, something like it doesn't exist. I could be wrong, but
they have iMovie for the iPhone,
Yeah.
And I used it the other day and it sucked.
It does suck, but it is nice to have if you just want to throw something together real quick. You know, I've done that before, like on vacation or something. So, you know,
I suppose I guess kind of tying back to what Matt said at the beginning of this is like, you know, with the Creative Cloud model, they have to increase their subscriber count. That's, I mean, just factually, that's what their business model has to be at this point. They've sold every single one of us in this world, this MoGraph world. We all have a Creative Cloud sub.
right.
They're not going to get any more money out of us. They're just going to keep getting the same $53 a month or whatever.
They got to get more subscribers. That makes sense.
Because they have shareholders and they have, you know, stock, whatever. They have a board of commissioners and, you know, all that. I get it. It doesn't. It's not going to fix RAM previews for me in After Effects, and I guess ultimately that's why I would be salty about something. You know, something like Project Rush coming up, because in my head, you know, I'm sure it's a logical fallacy, but I'm going to attribute the resources that went into Rush not going into things like RAM preview.
Right.
And that's hard for me to give up. I know it's not fair to the people who worked in those departments, you know, the developers who made those products. But I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
No,
I have mixed
And
feelings ultimately.
the thing is, you know, that it's not like they could have taken the people that did those programs and said, "Hey, will you fix RAM preview?" But you're kind of like, couldn't you have taken just a little bit of that money to maybe fix this? I guess they feel like they have us trapped in Adobe at this point, and they're like, "Well, we don't care to fix RAM preview.
Or
screw you guys."
Or maybe they're making After Effects 2 silently in the background. It's they're spending 9 years doing it. Who knows?
Right. Yes.
I mean, I room of my apartment, so I have no weight. My opinion has no weight in this, you know, really in what's going on here. And I acknowledge that, but at the same time, it's frustrating that my livelihood relies on being able to hit 0 on my numpad,
right,
and it having fishy, you know, wishy-washy results.
Oh, you're a 0 guy? I'm a spacebar guy.
I'm both.
What's the difference? You tell me.
There's not.
Exactly.
It's just some people were hitting spacebar and some people were hitting 0, so they decided to just merge the two together.
Well, you can you can set them for different things. That's what I do.
Oh.
I have them set differently. I have spacebar set up to do 100%, don't skip any frames, full resolution, audio on, the whole thing. So I can really, if I need to see something real good, but if I need to check the keyframing of something and make sure that it's flowing well, it's 0 because I'm skipping 2 frames. I'm doing quarter res. I use them both.
Yeah.
I mean, that's smart. And I think ultimately the hard part of being a developer for something like After Effects, you know, if you put yourself in their shoes, is how many different things does After Effects have to cater to? I mean, how people like Andrew Kramer who have like the visual effects-esque, you know, compositing stuff, and I'm doing it. I use After Effects to like color correct renders. You guys use it for what you use it, and my roommate uses it to do character animation. I don't think anyone 25 years ago when this software was made could have foreseen how many different user bases are all encompassed by this one piece of software.
Yeah, but you know what they all have in common?
They all hit 0?
They all use RAM preview.
You got me there.
Yeah. Yeah, you know. There's one more link here, and I haven't really looked too much into this, so I don't quite understand why this is better than Twixtor or worse than Twixtor. It's the NVIDIA Slow-Mo that is able to take video and turn it into slow-mo video. And I really haven't looked too much into it, but have you seen some of the videos? At least they look cool. But like with Twixtor, if you've used Twixtor, both of you have used Twixtor before, right?
Yeah,
I've seen it used. I haven't pulled the sliders on it myself, but I've sat behind somebody who has. And sometimes it's magic, sometimes it's the opposite of magic.
Exactly, and that's kind of the thing. I'm wondering, in videos for Twixter, when they show it off on their website, they're not going to do any of the ones that don't work. So it's the same thing with this NVIDIA slow-mo. I'm like, is this like exactly like Twixter, or is there more to it? Is it using AI, because that's the new buzzword? I mean, dude, at first it was HD, and then it was 3D, and now it's AI. It's just buzzwords all the way down. So my question is the stuff they're showing off kind of preliminary? Is it like something where they had to work a whole bunch to get it to look like that? Is it something that's going to work every time? I haven't heard enough about it, but so far it looks promising. I guess my question is, are you going to build that, allow people to build it into their own software? Like, is After Effects going to have that technology in it?
Yeah.
Are you going to have an NVIDIA card? Does it utilize CUDA to accomplish this? I'm looking for a little more information, but you can check that out in the links.
Yeah. Links.
That's all I got.
Cool.
Real quick, VR Corner. Is there a sale going on right now?
There is. Oculus. So both Steam and Oculus are having their sales.
Oh,
so
okay.
you can pick up Star Trek Bridge Crew for $20 right now.
Nice.
I'll probably do that.
Somebody, I can't remember who it was, put a link to the Beat Saber modding guide.
Oh, cool.
So there's like a whole modding thing going on with Beat Saber, and people are getting super into it. I feel like this is the most I've seen any modding done on a VR game so far.
Yeah.
So I bought Beat Saber like 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't even opened it. I should probably do that.
Yeah, you should.
Point. I got too much into like Moss, and then I downloaded Job Simulator, and my daughter kind of took over and didn't let me play anymore. So
that's funny.
Let's do some Beeple's People.
Da 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 da.
Got some good ones for you today. All right, everybody, take out your Beeple viewer of choice.
Firing it up.
And we are going to go to June 22nd, year of our Lord 2018. This one is called New Ride.
Okay. I like it.
And it kind of... Okay, so I have been doing my research a lot.
Dude.
Go ahead. I'm really thinking about this Beeple's People book, and like I've
been working on it too. I've got the story, dude. I got the story in my brain hole.
Don't say it on the air because you don't want to give it away.
I'll tell you about it, but I got where it starts, what's going on, what the main things are, and how we can incorporate all this Beeple stuff.
Nice.
So I went to bed the other night, and it was racking in my brain, and I couldn't get to sleep because I was so excited about how cool it was.
So I have gone through every single render from the last 4 years at this point. I've developed characters' names. I have taken about 20 pages of copious notes, handwritten. I have some pretty interesting stuff lined up. I'll have to tell you off the air what my ideas are. And of course, in the end, I'm really going to have to get some approval from Mike Winkleman in order to do any of this. However, one of those was called, I think it was like called The Guards or Guardians or something like that. And it was two skeletons, kind of like this one, that were guarding a portal. And I was thinking about the story of that the other day. And this reminds me of that because this is like a portal that's turned off, maybe.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And the skeletons, and I'm trying to figure out, why are there skeletons still there? And what do they do? Like, what are these? What is this thing supposed to be? Like, what kind of animal is this? Because
it looks like a saber-toothed tiger or something.
Yeah, that was my guess. And as far as the orbs go, see if I can do the pointing on camera thing.
Yeah.
So my three canvas prints back there. We've got one of them, which is that glass orb with the something or other inside of it. We can see that this one I'm pointing to behind me is illuminated. So if you want to add into the lore, these are all old. These are like vintage 2014, 2015 era Beeple stuff, where the people hadn't come into question here.
Right.
So I think we're getting pre historic pre creatures existing in the Beepleverse. But these orbs have definitely been around, and I think we're seeing that here in the new ride. Maybe this one's off because we see the one on the ground it doesn't have any coloring in it. Maybe that one's been destroyed.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too. Are these guardians? They've been here for so long that they've died, and were they there to basically attack people who came through the portal illegally?
That's what I think. That's what I think it is.
You know, so, and maybe these portals were all over the place. Maybe they were in different areas. Maybe people were trying to escape for some reason.
Because they can make the big animals. So they made the big saber-toothed tiger. Maybe that's just a regular cat. You know, it's a giant cat.
Liam says it looks like a skeleton version of the robot walker we talked about last week. Which one was that?
Robot walker, lithium transport.
The one with the long arms.
Now, see, and here's the thing Houdini, Mark, and I noticed last night is it wasn't called lithium trans. Wait a minute.
It was.
What?
Go down one.
Yeah, but this was not called lithium transport on his website, and that's what's throwing me off, because I've been looking at the names of some of these, and that one, remember the robot had the little piece of tape on him, and it was called Pete or something. Let's see. I'm gonna have to load this because we looked at this last night, and I was like, how come it's not called lithium transport? I knew that was the name of it. Come on, internet, do something. There we go. Seriously. Okay. It's called Full Flex.
Weird.
I'm really confused. It's called Full Flex on this version.
Well, on Twitter, it's called one thing, so I would go by the Twitter.
Rather than his website?
Yeah.
Is there anything else called Full Flex? Like in recent... I don't know. I'm really confused, and I don't know how to write anymore because of this. Yeah, I don't know. That's really weird. I don't know why that one was called Full Flex on only the website.
Did you guys do the Google Triplex, the one where the guy is like all hooked up with the headless dude, and he's like ribbling?
Yeah.
I think I'm mad I couldn't
yeah.
be there for that one.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I guess that's the story on that one. The next one, June 23rd, it's called Void Self.
Yeah. I think this continues the storyline of the dude and the girl, you know?
The dude and the girl?
Yeah, like the one where they're separating, and I think that's in that same hangar type thing.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very pretty. I love the symmetry and stuff. Like
the angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much more to say about that one. Some of these have been really great for kind of just thinking about the story in general. It just gets you in the mood, the vibe, and it's not necessarily like this is the story, but you get the idea of what this Beeple world is like.
Totally.
You know. And now this is a really good one, and this is kind of different. It's out of the ordinary. It's called Airlocked. And from a daily perspective, I am curious if the purpose of this was to do HUD stuff.
I think so.
And if he actually did these, as part of a deal, or if these were just stock pieces that he put in there. So, like, was the purpose of this daily to practice HUD, for maybe an upcoming project, or just to have it under your belt, or is it not about that?
Yeah,
because
I don't know.
They're very clear. They're very, very clear.
See, that's the one thing that bugged me about it is I wish, as dumb as it sounds, I wish there was some glow. I wish there was some bloom to it, like the one on the bottom left.
And I mean, look at all the different aspect ratios of screens in this era. Notice none of them are vertical, are they?
Well, it depends. It depends. Like if you're taking like the one right above the main screen above his head, if that's two separate screens, but look, there's several that's vertical in there.
Wait, where are you seeing vertical?
You're
screen
breaking up. You're breaking up. You're talking about the whole the screen as a whole. I'm talking about individual segments. I mean, that's vertical.
Oh,
You know, someone still has to. Yeah, go ahead.
I can debunk that theory because I know this screen pack. It's
Oh,
for
nice.
the models, not the
Nice.
screen, not the content of the screens, but the screens themselves. Like the enclosures is from one of Vitaly Bulgarov's like kit bash packs.
Okay.
So I know that one screen that Matt was postulating about, the one that's front and center in front of the viewer. It's not like a separated 2.5 screens.
It's actually 16 by 9.
Yeah. Or whatever, maybe not 16 by 9, but it's a wide screen, you know, normal guy.
It's Kit Bash, man. You can use it any way you want.
I was. Did you guys watch the video of what's his name? Adam Savage, when he built the 1000.
Oh, dude, that was such a great video.
It was such a good video, and he actually talks about kit bashing like real life
The 1,000
stuff. Like,
what? I don't know what you're talking
1,000 Nerf rival bullets.
Yeah, look, yeah. So,
okay.
Adam Savage, the former MythBuster, he runs the YouTube channel Tested.
Yeah, it's on his YouTube channel.
Yeah, tested.com. And because he's an old school model maker from ILM, from the era of, you know, the original Star Wars movies, the spaceships, all the greebly goop that was actually kit bashed from real physical model parts.
Stuff, yeah.
That's what we do as digital, you know, as disciples of Beeple. That's what we're doing digitally. And to see Adam's descriptions and thought processes from the physical standpoint, I think, to me, it's like super enthralling as a C4D artist. He also goes over stuff like weathering, how you think about how a material is built up. You know, there's the underlying metal surface, and then there's like paint. Maybe that paint has chips, and then on top of that paint there are layers of grime. But not all that grime. It's not all just black dirt. It's got a little bit of brown, a little bit of gold. There's maybe some reds, yellows, and stuff. You know, all mixed into those layers of grime. And where that grime collects, you know, stuff like using a ambient occlusion or a dirt node, depending on whatever render engine you're in. It's like that stuff is super revealing on why we do what we do. So if you're listening and you're interested in stuff like kind of higher level material development, I would really recommend watching his one day build video series.
It's very short, like the part that goes over that, you know, but still it's super cool.
Yeah,
like,
it's really awesome background noise. You get to see him building stuff, you know, the way that he bevels or chamfers something. He has to use a lathe or a mill to do it, but that same thought process of like even little stuff of like, if you're going to be making one thing, like flip a copy of it over to the other side or whatever, you know, now all of a sudden you just made it look twice as more complex. Just like even little stuff like that, you can glean nuggets of information from that and apply it into CG, because what we do as CG is what he did 30 years ago as a model making model maker.
Yeah, totally.
That's what Mattel or whoever it was called it back when they were putting together some of the original Star Wars
toys. Yeah,
I saw that in the that toy documentary
toys
thing on
we
Netflix.
Grew up with or something. Yeah.
And they're talking about kit bashing with that, like taking an old version of a different character they had and strapping different things on it to make Darth Vader. You know?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I had 400 Batman action figures in the 90s when I was a kid, and you could bet your butt that every single one of them was the same like mold. It's like, oh, we're gonna change the cape, we're gonna change the shape of his helmet. The ears are more pointy on this one. Oh, this one he's got a yellow ammo belt. Whatever. It's like it was the same piece at one point in time, and then they just made variations of it.
Yeah.
And then my parents bought me them all.
They should have just bought you the mold.
Yeah, I know.
It would have been cheaper in the long run.
Yeah. That's funny.
But stuff like 3D printing now is that's like almost kind of accessible. Like you say that as a joke, but like here we are 25 years later from those Batman action figures, and it's like it wouldn't be completely out of the question to make your own action figure nowadays.
Right.
Oh yeah, I've been printing My Little Ponies for my daughter. We've been like painting them and stuff. Yeah. and
For
building
his
like
daughter.
building little drawers and stuff for her doll houses and stuff. Yeah. I'm not a brony. I swear. Let's do some Brograph recommends. Don't know if you prepped for this or not.
I didn't, but I see the list of things on the chat, and we can rapid fire these because I have solid answers to all of them.
Okay, cool.
'Cause
Including life hack, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Got one.
Let's start with favorite movie.
I don't want to say it's a great movie, but it's my favorite movie because of the way that I was raised. But it's The Place Beyond the Pines. It's one of those like weird kind of art housey movies where it's like 3 movies built into one. It's like each arc is totally different characters, and then they come together at the end. Yeah, so that's my favorite movie.
Okay.
All right.
Ryan
Music?
Gosling, nice.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler, he's only in the first third.
Oh, darn. Oh, Bradley Cooper too, dude. I'm in.
He's a dreamboat. What about music?
I listen to pretty much everything that's not country or top 40 Billboard.
Mhm.
So I'll say the music, if I were to open up Google Play Music right now, it is set to the remixes of Tycho songs. So like Tycho, he's like a instrumental, like kind of chill wave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good working music.
Yeah. Super awesome working. Not a whole lot in terms of like vocals or just like really mellow instrumentation. But it's remixes of that. So it's like some stuff's a little bit kind of out of the box, whatever.
Yeah. Let's see. TV show.
Well, I don't have cable. So the last TV show that I watched was Breaking Bad.
Okay.
I enjoyed that. I feel like that's a cop-out answer.
It kind of
How
is.
how long ago
That's
was
like
that?
saying
though?
I would like to have dinner with Jesus.
I mean, I
You
watched.
know?
If I can say anything, I watched it when it was on TV.
Uh-huh.
I didn't watch it on Netflix. So if that gets me any credit back at all, then I'll take it.
Maybe a little.
All right then.
Breaking Bad's a very common answer.
Yeah, it is.
I don't.
Well, but in its defense, it was a very excellent show.
I guess.
it's amazing.
Okay, my guilty pleasure TV show then would be Pawn Stars. Can I say that?
There you
Oh,
go.
really?
Okay.
Didn't that
There
guy?
you go.
Didn't the old man guy just die this morning?
This morning?
Yeah, I
Don't
think
tell
so.
me that.
Yeah, he did. I just saw an article this morning.
I'm gonna have to check my trending section on Twitter. You're gonna.
Yeah.
On Stars star Richard Harrison, known as the Old Man, dies 1 hour ago.
That's crushing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Is this-
I'm sorry to be the one who has to tell you
is
that.
this the
online.
first on-screen? Like I might have a breakdown with that information.
There you go. No, at first I was like, it says old man dies, and I'm like, what? Like that's like old man yells at cloud. I was like, oh, old man dies. I see. I get it. I see. Or was that his nickname was? Old man?
Yeah, that's what they, because he was
yeah.
Rick Harrison Sr., right?
Did he own the place or?
I can't tell you the timeline of that.
Probably.
I just like the show for what it is.
Mark says in the chat, he says, sorry for your loss, Billy.
I appreciate that greatly, Mark.
So, all right. Favorite podcasts besides Brograph?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously this is number one. If I'm not here, I'm in the chat every week. So next to that would be, to loop back to what we were just talking about with Tested, is Adam Savage's podcast called Still Untitled. That it's, sometimes it's like pop culture, whatever is the latest Marvel movie or Star Wars or whatever, but other episodes there'll be, he'll talk about, building a thing for his workshop, or, what's the whatever the topic is. I think they're super cool. I kind of grew up on Mythbusters, so seeing any piece of media that has Adam on board still is something that I tune into. So
yeah, like his GPU versus CPU demonstration.
Oh yeah,
We've seen that, right? And that might have been a Mythbusters thing. It's been around for a while. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
with
where
the paint guns.
balls.
It
Where
was
he's showing off. He's showing off like
it was a
creating an
presentation at
image
a
or something.
college.
Yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't part of a TV show, so maybe it was on like somebody's random channel. But basically, they showed like how you would paint a painting with a paint gun if it were a CPU, and it sits there and it spits out like 120 paintballs until it makes an image, and it takes 5 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they showed this other device they made that represented GPU that makes a painting. And of course, it has like 120 spigots on it, and they just fire it in like 1 second. They have the entire painting. This is the demonstration between the two. You should check that one out if you haven't seen it.
I'm sending it to you on Slack.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't put it in.
I was going to put it in the chat,
Skype.
but I didn't want it to go over.
All right, your favorite plugin?
Well, I feel cheap saying that render engines are plugins because, I mean, they are plugins. But outside of that, I would. And it's tough to say. I'd probably say Signal from GSG.
It's a good plugin.
Yeah,
I find a way to use it on literally every single project.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get annoyed by that if they grab my project file and they're like, "Why did you could have just keyframe this from 0 to 30?" And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I don't like graph editing in the timeline. If I have this nice little GUI in the Signal, that little animation graph curve.
Yeah.
So I use that thing all the time.
I'm the same way. Recently, since I started using it, it's just so powerful. I just find reasons to use it. We're working on this projection map, and of course, we're doing a lot of BPM stuff. So the fact that you can go in there and do BPM and measures and all of that has just been really helpful. Headphones. Who are you wearing right now?
These are AKG K702. In my Mo bag, I have the Bayer Dynamic DT770s, which are a closed back headphone. These are open back, so I can hear the dump truck that's unfortunately outside my apartment. Apologies if that's.
How do you like that? How do you like the open back?
I personally like it. I used to play games a little bit more frequently than I did. So imagine like playing, I don't know, Skyrim or Breath of the Wild or whatever the case may be. You're in some big open environment. It's like a really nerdy thing that people on audiophile forums will argue about, but the soundscape sounds bigger and more like roomy.
Okay.
It's if you kind of think of like being in a ballroom versus being in a closet.
Okay.
Like, each one has pros and cons. I take the closed back headphones, the DT770s. Those are my on-site headphones because I'm going to be in a shared office with other people, and I just want to put the cans on and fire up some music and just jam out whatever is uninterrupted as possible. At home, I've got a door, or my roommate will be out of the house or whatever. So the open headphones I prefer if you can work without whatever around, but definitely cool to have both.
Okay.
Yeah, when we're recording the show, I just have cheap headphones on because I want to be able to hear. Yeah, I want to be able to hear what's around. We both have the Bose Select Comfort 35s.
Of course, yeah.
I don't wear them during the show because I kind of want to hear what's going on externally, make sure there's no other noises going on, make sure my fans aren't blowing up on my computer. I'm not going to hear any of that stuff.
Yeah, when you're locked in.
Yeah. Website or Chrome extension?
Ooh. Again, I feel like it's another cheap answer, but the Chrome extension View Image brings back the Google image search View Image button.
Yes, I do have that.
They took that out because of there's like a Getty lawsuit, or Getty was threatening because how easy it is to steal and re-upload photos. So when they took that out, that was like a day one. Like, I can't function without that. I can't work on any project without saving a couple reference images or even just making a Pinterest board of things that are like-minded, like a mood board, or if you were pitching a project like a deck, you would like, here's my mood stuff, here's my inspiration. I don't work without that. So View Image is necessary for me.
I don't understand that. Yeah, like Sage said, they took it out and we all put it back in. It's like Oh, you're upset people are taking images off of your website? Well,
Yeah, but like,
how horrible for you. Like,
But now they're
it's
not.
Google
at
just
fault.
doesn't want to be. Google's not responsible for it.
Yeah,
Anymore.
they're not at fault now.
Mm.
It's like
Yeah.
buying the Elon Musk flamethrower thing. If you have to buy your own fuel before you burn your house down with your new flamethrower, then that's
yeah.
you didn't buy the fuel from him. He can't be
Right.
blamed.
But I mean, how far is that gonna be taken? Is my question. I mean, it's photos on their own site, right? It's not
Yeah.
like they're re-uploading those photos from iStock. They're linking to photos on iStock. I feel like they could just. Well, what are they upset about? First of all, they have their watermarks all over them.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
can't
make
call
better
it.
watermarks. I mean, I don't know, but all right. And then of course, life hack.
Oh, well, I've got plenty of life hacks from when I worked at a produce market. But my life hack is if you like bananas, open them upside down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally.
Wait, why?
Because
So-
you don't get the little stringy things.
Well, yeah. You know, like when you break a banana off the bunch of bananas and you got like the stem end, most people grab that and use that as the handle to start unpeeling the banana. Nuh-uh.
Right.
Flip it 180 and come from the bottom. Just trust me.
I'm gonna have
You
to
don't
try
get the
that
little
now.
stringy things that come off when you peel it the other way.
Mm-hmm. Matt
Interesting.
knows.
Dude, that's how monkeys eat it.
Yeah, if you look up footage of a primate or eating bananas, they
Uh-huh.
open it upside down.
Yep.
So
I thought
that's
you were
my
going to
life
do
hack.
like a Kirk Cameron banana thing.
I mean, there are some out in my kitchen. But I don't want the dead air.
You'll just have to.
Demonstrating the life hack on camera.
Yeah, you'll just have to Google the Kirk Cameron banana theory. But anyway, all right,
Yeah. Anyway.
let's get out of here. We got to go do our stuff and things here pretty soon. We
We got another meeting here in a minute.
get
This
out
is
the
not a
bingo
short
cards.
show.
No, it is not.
Where can people find you? Let's go through all the list of things. Where do you post most of the time?
Most frequently, I mean, as far as work that I make, I post it to my Instagram almost all the time first.
Mhm.
So that is at Gernge, spelled Gernge. It's a made up name, whatever. So yeah, if you type Gernge into pretty much whatever, you'll probably find me. If you don't find me by that name, you can find me by my real name, just Billy Chitkin. I believe my YouTube and my Vimeo are under Billy, and then pretty much anything else would be Gernge. So
Cool.
yeah. Oh, and of course my website, gernge.com. So
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you so much
for being
coming on
on.
the show.
Yeah.
well, thank you to both of you.
Dude, I knew when we were chatting when we had the podcast at NAB, with all 300
Mhm.
people that were on, and we were chatting. I was like, okay, we got to have Billy back on.
yeah, that
we
was
got to
that
have
was,
you back on.
that was rad. I think I found you guys pretty early on as far as the podcast goes, like
Mhm.
maybe the first dozen episodes or so, like when
Oh,
it
wow.
first
Awesome.
when it first hit the subreddit, and then whatever life happens, and I kind of dropped off of it until maybe the tail end of last year when the Slack kind of picked up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then I've been all on board again.
See, I met you we met you for the first time at Half Res last year.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've been a part of our lives ever since.
Yeah. One big happy family.
Yeah,
a
totally.
Mo family.
A Mo family.
Also, now you can find Billy on Brograph.com. If you go look at the tutorials,
Mhm.
This is our 90th tutorial on the site. This is Intro to Python in Cinema 4D.
Yes, super
So-
killer tutorial. Yes, I was very happy about this one.
Yeah, so check that out if you are interested in learning about Python in Cinema 4D. And you don't have to know any Python to do this tutorial, right?
Mhm.
None at all.
All right.
Go ahead and ask me what a variable is. I can't tell you. That's like day one of coding school.
Yeah, it is.
I know how to copy and paste. And if you can copy and paste, then you can follow that tutorial. And that's
A
why I made it.
variable is anything.
See?
Yeah,
That's
I
why
don't-
it's variable.
that's a variable.
I don't know that. But yeah, it'd be fun to make another one. I've got an idea. So I'm gonna see if I can find some time this week. But that'll be fun.
Nice. I think we got some other stuff coming through the pipeline here pretty soon too on the site. Some other people doing tutorials as well. So
Yeah, awesome.
it's exciting.
Yep. Have you guys seen the Incredibles yet?
Oh yeah,
No.
last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't. And
Go see it, Dave.
We can't do any spoilers, but man, Westworld.
Yeah, don't say anything
Finale
about
last
Westworld.
night.
I'm like 3 episodes behind.
Oh man,
the finale finally
Was it last
happened?
night?
yeah, it was last night.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so
right.
okay.
I know
we'll
what
talk
I'm doing
about
the
it.
rest of the day.
Yeah,
there you
I'm
go.
one of those people without TV, so I'm gonna go find it online.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah,
HBO.
HBO,
Exactly. Yeah,
HBO
right. Yeah,
now
no,
or
of
go. Or,
course, I'm gonna sign into my HBO account. Yep.
Right.
yeah, I actually
Yeah, right
paid
on
for the
that.
HBO account. There's a lot of good stuff on HBO. It's worth it. What is it? $10, $9.
Did you hear about the epileptic seizures that
Oh, from
Incredibles 2? Yeah.
No,
the warning in front of the movie was long. That was like a
Yeah.
45-second warning. I was like, they are not
Oh, we
joking.
didn't even have a warning on ours. It was just oh wait. Yeah, maybe we did. I don't know. My cousin's daughter had a seizure watching it.
Yeah, it was straight up like before the movie, before the short. It was like
Yeah.
white text on a black background for a long time.
Uh-huh.
why though? Like, what's the difference between that and anything else?
There's
there's
flashes.
there's a
There's
legitimate
like hardcore flashes. Like it gave me a migraine watching it.
Yeah. It's
You know.
it's a plot point in the movie. I mean, it's not really much of a spoiler. I'll just say it's a plot point in the
Yeah.
film that there are elements visually that will trigger people with photosensitive disorders,
Mhm.
and it's
Interesting.
part of the plot. And
Yeah.
I'm not.
There was one scene in particular, like where that stuff was going on,
Mhm.
and Bill, you may know when they were in that little cube of the flashing stuff. That looked cool.
It did. It
like,
was. It was like
it
being in a
looked
club, like the strobe lighty effect.
Yeah,
of like,
and it was weird. Like I was watching it, and I was like, this almost looks like a completely different style, you know, because of the way it was shaded and colored and stuff like that with the lights. I don't know. It was super cool. Other than the
Weird.
seizures part, you know.
But
So
yeah,
it's like that episode of The Simpsons where they go to
yeah,
Japan and
go to
there's like
Japan.
all seizure-inducing
Yeah.
robot cartoons. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. So not to make light of that disorder, but that was a very serious
Man.
scene.
Yeah.
That's-
yeah.
And the warning was most certainly, it merits,
Oh, absolutely.
45 or 60-second, however long that
Wow.
warning was.
Yeah.
I wonder what caused them to do that as opposed to just any other movie. Because I mean, I understand like that there's something involved in the movie that's like really flashy and
You'll
stuff.
tell.
But
You'll be able to tell, and it's not just one quick occurrence. Like
Yeah.
it is throughout.
Mhm.
you know.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Liam says I believe he said he saw it opening day and there was no warning. So
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
probably a bit of maybe backlash isn't the right word, but you
Yeah.
know, there was concern over
Incidents.
that it made
Yeah.
it past just like test screenings.
hmm
And once it made it to the mass public, then I can totally see that giving people issue.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
feel like you should maybe put that like as a generic thing in a movie theater now, like in the slides in between stuff. Like, doesn't it seem like just being in a theater because it is so dark and things come on and off the screen really fast that could be a possibility at
I don't know. I
many
think it's
other-
different. This is way different.
I'm gonna have to see
Yeah.
it. to
yeah, go see
understand,
it.
I
Go
guess.
see it. Go see
Okay.
it. We'll talk about it next week.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to see it this week, but I'll definitely try.
I'll take you to go see it tomorrow with
Aw.
my free points.
Yeah, with your we're finishing up 10 projects. All right, let's.
Tuesday matinees are always the cheapest.
I know,
Yeah.
$5 if you got a Stubbs card, dude.
Can't beat it.
Right?
Y'all are hardcore. All right. Let's get out of here. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review. You can also subscribe to us on your podcatcher of choice. The subscriptions and the reviews help get our ratings up, especially on iTunes. So please do that. And then newsletter, you can subscribe to that on our site. We haven't sent one out in quite a while, so we should probably do that. You can say you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt with the No Brograph, No Mograph tee, the Kate and D. Simone limited edition shirt.
Very
You
limited.
never know how long that's going to be around. the
One day
Field
it's
of
just gonna
Bab
go away.
2020 shirt. Yeah, Paul Babb, Field of Bab 2020 is gonna. All the profits from that go to Doctors Without Borders, and then we got the Render Things shirt and hoodie, and I would eventually like to do a hat for that as well.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, but I don't know where to get a good hat made. I'm gonna have
I don't
to
know.
look up some.
Should ask Maxon where they got their hats, because this is very comfortable.
Something we can drop ship and not have to ship to people, because
Right. Yeah.
All right, that wraps it up. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, of course, YouTube and Brograph.com, and all the great channels,
Stuff and
all the
things.
great social medias and the stuff and things. So we're gonna get out of here and get back to working.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to show you what we've been working on here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Should be
It's
on
like
the
2
interwebs.
weeks. 2 weeks away.
Yeah, really cool projection map thingy. And that's it. Until next week, I'm Dave.
I'm Matt.
Do I get one?
Yeah, you do.
And I'm Billy.
Have a good one.
Later, bros. All right, stop my recording. Wow, almost 3 hours, dude.
Yeah, that was a
Wow.
long one.
Well done.
You said.
Still live, Dave.
I could see Audition on the time code for how long that recording was running.
Uh-huh.
The little readout for the time code was starting to drop frames.
Yeah, mine does that too.
Gotcha.
It starts to like just slow down. You know, it starts to choke a little bit, but it's all there.
Cool. Okay. So then we just do a file save as. Cool.
Oh, and I found out yesterday that if you're recording while the power goes out, it keeps your file.
It's good.